across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. The weekend starts here, but not yet. You've got to watch this show first. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 03444 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number, and I promise to play your message out. It is Friday, August the 7th. Here's what's coming up. We've got one hell of a lot to get through today, so I'll be brief. Thetford erupts in a third night of furious migrant protests over the asylum seekers being forced upon the local community in more and more houses of multiple occupation, thanks to the palpable complacency of a Prime Minister who clearly doesn't care about this escalating national crisis and isn't even here at the moment. Are we in danger of seeing this kind of social unrest spreading all over the country? 03444 499 1000. Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch says a Tory government would ban foreigners from social housing. Is she right? Is she copying Reform UK? 03444 499 1000. Restore Britain Supremo Rupert Lowe impressively sticks to his contention that you are not British unless both of your parents were born here, by refusing to say that King Charles qualifies to be a citizen of this country. His dad, Prince Philip, of course, was born in Greece. The King's a foreigner. Do you agree? 03444 499 1000. A former top cop calls for preposterous Professor Jason Arday to be prosecuted for criminal fraud, and police decide not to prosecute a 12-year-old thug caught on camera setting fire to grassland and sparking a serious wildfire. Are they right? 03444 499 1000. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday afternoon together. Very pleased to announce he's nodding in full agreement to every word of my monologue. He's in the studio. He is Deputy Leader of Reform UK, Richard Tice. Welcome, Richard.
Very good afternoon, Kevin. It's a beautiful day. Great to be with you, back in the studio.
Yeah, this is like a second home to you. You used to do shows here, so Richard knows the terrain. Well, let me ask you first, there's a lot to get through here, but I do need to get your response to what Kemi Badenoch said. She's told the people of Clacton, you deserve better than Farage. A couple of things to say about that. Well, if you think that, Kemi, why don't you field a candidate?
Bingo. I mean, the cheek of it. She basically said to the good residents of Clacton, you don't deserve a Tory candidate. And now she's saying to them, you don't deserve your current Member of Parliament, Nigel Farage, who you elected just a couple of years ago. I mean, the whole thing is extraordinary. It's as though she's now getting sort of second-hand regret. I mean, just beyond words, frankly.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing to say. I know we've got a lot of very important things to talk about, but a couple of other businesses to get done. Rupert Lowe, we're going to cover this story in a little while. I'm just wondering whether you think this might be a tipping point. Rupert loves to sort of dally with the extreme right and say, oh, look, aren't I tough? Look what I'll do. I'll sort Britain out. I'll, deport virtually everyone who lives here. But do you think it was a tipping point on Radio 4 on the Today programme when he was asked by Nick Robinson, the presenter? Well, look, let's have a quick listen.
Are you aware that, by the definitions used in that particular report, King Charles is not a white Briton? Do you think he is a white Briton?
Well, many people have different interpretations of that, Nick. I mean, we can split hairs, but I think...
Well, you're not splitting hairs. Do you think the monarch of this country is a white Briton?
It's quite clear, and I think most British people, if you speak to them, would agree. And that is why
King Charles a white
Britain's
Briton?
membership is growing very fast. And your listeners are dropping equally fast because you don't reflect actually what's happening.
Why don't you answer the question now we've got you on?
You try and whitewash all of the things that are happening.
Is King Charles
you
or
peddle
White Britain,
climate
Rupert Lowe?
change, you peddle DEI, you peddle all of the malign agenda, which British people have got bored of.
Right.
So
they're bored of people ignoring the questions, Mr. Lowe.
So, just to put that in context, Richard, Rupert Lowe has defined the concept of being British, that not only must you be born in Britain, but both your parents should be born in Britain. Then you're a British citizen. And, of course, as Nick Robinson was pointing out there, that excludes the King, because his dad, Prince Philip, was born in Greece. Now, not answering the question, is King Charles British, I think might be a bit of a tipping point for Mr. Lowe, don't you?
I was wondering whether that interview was conducted on April Fool's Day, because I think it was a new low in the sort of...
A new low for Lowe?
a new low for Lowe, because, I mean, just the absurdity of not being able to ask a very basic question about the monarch of our country. A man who has spent his whole life giving service to this country and patently, obviously, is British to his fingertips.
Shall we go through how Rupert Lowe should have handled this? Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK. Is King Charles, the monarch of this country, a white British citizen?
Yes, of course.
Thank you very much. There you go, Rupert. If you're watching, a textbook lesson for how to answer that question. Unbelievable. People won't forget that. I think he thought he was being clever there, but he was being the reverse, I'll tell you that. Right, let's get on now. You've got some news, haven't you?
Well, I've got a couple of bits of news, yes. The important bit of news is that Nigel and I believe that the National Crime Agency have committed multiple criminal offences, and
by leaking,
they leaked copies and details of separately of individual bank statements, bank transfers, details of conversations with bank managers from different banks, different bank managers, different accounts. Certainly in my case, and we've had enough of it. We gave them about 5 weeks to investigate internally. They have basically refused to do so. They've begged for more time. We think they're playing for time, and we've said we're done with it. So today we have submitted High Court proceedings, a writ against the National Crime Agency, 2 separate writs actually, for leaking confidential information. And we will be seeking an apology and damages for what they've done. They have literally, I mean, this is the most senior crime agency in the country, have themselves committed criminal offences, and they haven't denied it, and they haven't come back to us in 5 weeks. We've had enough of it. We're suing them.
So you've launched the proceedings today.
And look, these things with the joys of litigation. It'll take a very long time. But this tells the NCA we're not to be messed with. They might have thought we could be messed with when they leaked our confidential bank transfers and details of our own bank accounts and bank individual transactions. Well, we're saying to them, actually, that's not how you do things. You're specifically not allowed to do that. That's the only basis on which they're allowed to see all our banking information.
And you also keep getting in trouble, don't you, with the Parliamentary Standards Committee? You failed to declare that you went to Israel, and therefore apparently...
I did declare in my register of interest that I went to Israel last September, which was a very educational trip. It was when there were still hostages. And but some individual who I know who it is, I've not yet said who it is, who I believe is a anti-Israeli, anti-Semite, he reported me to the Parliamentary Standards Commissioner because in a debate about UK democracy and politics, he decided I should have declared that I went to Israel 9 months ago. The whole thing is utterly absurd. Supposedly, I'm now not allowed to defend myself. So in other words, I'm supposed to sort of sit back and wait while the BBC do a push notification at the very moment we're just doing a press conference. That's a coincidence, isn't it? I mean, the whole thing's just bonkers. It really is. I'm literally being investigated for standing up against anti-Semitism.
And aren't you in trouble about your birthday as well?
Well, this is... I seem to be in a lot of trouble at the moment, Kevin.
It's great getting him in the studio, isn't it? Go on.
So yes, You're going to read, not that I would ever recommend people to buy The Observer, but The Observer are concerned that Isabel and I had a joint birthday party in December 2024, a couple of months after our actual birthday.
Right.
We invited lots of people. It was a lovely event. We, in the spirit of sharing the love, the festive spirit, we even invited a representative from The Guardian who came along. But apparently they think that was a naughty thing to do, and I should have declared my own birthday party that I paid for myself. And the whole thing is just
Declare to who? Declare to who?
I don't know whether to have to declare it to God, to Father Christmas, to the Speaker. I mean, the whole thing is absolutely bonkers. It shows how desperate they are, that they want to smear absolutely anything, and they are now they're literally going around who they think may have been the guests at the party saying, did Tice charge you for drinks? Was he trying to make a profit at his own drinks party?
Well,
I mean, seriously, your beloved listeners and viewers, seriously, this is what's going on in the smear campaign against Tice. I just laugh myself to sleep every night.
Well, I've been to several of your parties, and I can assure you, folks, he does buy the drinks. But seriously, let's be serious about this for a second, because it does seem to me that a picture is building up, that there's some kind of campaign, organised campaign to smear, to undermine you and Nigel and Reform UK.
Yeah, there is a politically motivated smear campaign by the establishment, various parts of it, who are utterly terrified how well Reform did just 2 months ago in the May elections, despite everything they tried to do beforehand. They'd sort of said we were running the councils badly, and then the council elections come up second year in a row where we absolutely smashed it. And so now they're saying, what else can we do? Oh, let's break the law through various parts of the institutions of the state that we all pay for and your listeners pay for through their taxes, in order to try and smear and discredit these people. Well, I would suggest that they've picked upon the wrong people.
I think so. Listen, let's move on to wider issues. Now, we've had 3 nights in a row, serious disturbances, serious trouble in Thetford. It's up in Norfolk, isn't it?
Yes.
And these are migrant protesters. We don't condone violence, of course, but they are very upset, in their view, at having more and more houses of multiple occupation full of asylum seekers imposed on them. And this is a picture that's happening all over the country. Now, we can sit here going, oh, that's terrible, oh, they bit a copper's ears. That is terrible. What's going on is wrong and we don't condone it. But just to say these are thugs causing trouble, I think, is to misrepresent what's going on. What I'm trying to get at here, Richard, in terms of this serious unrest, 3 nights in a row, protests about the migrants being foisted upon that community, do you fear that we may see more and more of this around the country?
Well, we've already seen protests against lawful protests, peaceful protests around the country, whether it's Epping, whether it's Crowborough, various other places, against the imposition of hundreds and hundreds, sometimes thousands of illegals. That's who they are. They've illegally invaded and broken into our country, falsely seeking asylum. They came from a safe country, therefore it is a false application by definition. And they in their hundreds and their thousands, they are literally, in a sense, much larger in number than the locality where they're being placed, whether it's a village or whether it's a small town, and people not unreasonably are anxious and concerned about that and lawfully expressing that concern. Now, as you quite rightly said, as a democracy, we welcome lawful, peaceful protest. That's literally part of the job of a democracy. We never condone any violence whatsoever. But I would also just respectfully ask this question, and I'll get attacked by the woke lefties. As I understand, as has always been the case, this started as a lawful, peaceful protest and then seems to have been hijacked by someone. The question is, who's hijacked it? Yeah. And I had to tell you what, I suspect there is a greater chance that it is some Antifa-style far-left thugs who are deliberately trying to stir up and infer that they're actually from the extreme right in order to portray anybody who expresses concern about illegal immigration as bigots and racists and thugs. That, I suspect, is a much greater than a 50-50 chance of what is really going on here.
Good point. Now let's examine, though, the reason for this protest and other protests. I think that people in this country, and this is why I fear more and more social unrest, people in this country increasingly believe that our Prime Minister, this government, just aren't listening to them. Their primary concern is the number one issue in this country that people want sorted out is the migrant crisis. We have a Prime Minister who, A, is on holiday, and B, doesn't want to talk about it anyway. So we all go, please, could you stop the boats? Please, can you sort this escalating migrant crisis? This country is getting infested with more and more illegal foreigners, and you're telling us, oh, don't worry, I'm going to bring you a new social care system and give you millions of mayors.
It is pretty extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, literally, he's been trying to get the top job of Prime Minister for the last 15 years. Yeah. He tries twice to become an elected leader of the Labour Party, fails, so then he had to basically impose himself via a coup. He works for a couple of weeks, says, oh, I'm a bit tired with this new job, so I'll head off on holiday. Oh, by the way, I'll stop at the White Cliffs of Dover on my way over on holiday. I mean, you couldn't make it up.
Oh, I know.
And he says, oh, this might be an issue, folks. We'll sort it out when I come back from holiday. Well, actually, since he's become Prime Minister, well over 2,000 people have invaded our country in small boats.
Yeah, let's not beat about the bush. He doesn't care about the migrant
Of course he doesn't care.
Nor did
He's never
cabinet.
spoken about it before, to my knowledge, until he literally rocked up at the White Cliffs of Dover on his way to holiday. It's like he took a little sort of a rest, like stopping at a service station.
Off, yeah, a service station. Yeah,
just couldn't make it up.
Yeah, I was rather hoping. I think that image of him standing on the White Cliffs of Dover will come back to haunt him. So no marks to his comms team. He should have been a bit more careful about that. But I was kind of hoping, that in the background we might see some boats coming across the channel. Didn't quite happen, but
not quite.
Listen, Richard, I can't let you go without getting your view on the preposterous professor, Jason Arday. Now, we can all laugh about his ludicrous lies, which got more and more fantastical. In the end, what I feel about Jason Arday is he's a troubled young man who needs help. But the story here for me is all the institutions, the Cambridge University, the BBC, the police, charities, the publishing industry, who all, I hesitate to say got taken in by his lies, who all wanted to believe him. This is a DEI catastrophe, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, of course it is. And they've all basically been found out. In particular, one of supposedly the finest universities in the world has been proven to be one of the wokest, most incompetent universities in the world. And people at Cambridge, they need to be held accountable.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, I tell you what, when we do things wrong, they want us to be held accountable. Well, if they want to retain the reputation of a supposedly world-leading university, someone's got to carry the can. I don't know whether that is the Vice-Chancellor or the person who dishes out professorships. But, I mean, what is a professorship of sociology? Yeah. I mean, honestly, it really is ridiculous. And I don't know whether it was sort of just the final sort of icing on the tea cake, but apparently his resignation letter was
written by
AI.
It was.
Is he a real person or is he an AI person? I don't know.
Well, it's Simon & Schuster, the publishing house, who are about to unleash his autobiography. It's called Great and Unusual Things. They say they're still going to release it. Now, where do you think they'll file it? In the fiction or non-fiction section?
It'll probably go in the non-binary section. Sorry, that's very rude. I'll get in more trouble. But seriously,
both in trouble.
I mean, the whole thing, you can't make this stuff up. It'll probably make the book a bestseller. Lots of people say, how can I copy this bloke getting to such an esteemed position with potentially at risk so little talent? I don't know. He might be a genius. Who knows?
Indeed. Listen, Richard, well, I think he's a kind of a genius. I've got a reluctant respect for him, but it's all these people who got taken in by him. Not, I think, because they're idiots, but because they wanted to be taken in by him. Cambridge wanted the kudos of being able to boast, oh, look, we've got the youngest ever black professor.
Go woke, go broke.
Go woke, go broke. This is a story of why wokery, the woke mind virus, sends otherwise sensible and intelligent people clinically insane. That's what's happened here. It's the woke mind virus sending people mad. Richard, it is fantastic to have you in the studio. That is the brilliant Reform UK Deputy Leader Richard Tice MP. Now, because we mentioned the dreaded Clacton by-election, it means we have to go through all the candidates, and my colleague Jeremy Kyle has been kind enough to pre-record it, so I don't have to read out these 34 names, but here they are.
So the full list of candidates for the Clacton by-election: Joseph 77, the Independent; Adam Akatip, the Forward Party; Count Binface, the Count Binface Party; Nick the Incredible Flying Brick, the Official Monster Raving Loony Party; Tony Kane's an independent. Woke Trump Kazi is an independent. William Stewart James Clouston is the Social Democratic Party candidate. Rhys Cowan, an independent. Glenn Charles Cummings, an independent. Martin Davis, the Freedom Alliance Real People Real Alternative. Andy Earlam's an independent. Nigel Farage, the Reform UK Party. Atiye Fards, an independent. Lawrence Fox for the Reclaim Party. Tony Francis is an independent. Robin Green, an independent. Abby Hookway, an independent. Howling Lord Hope, the Official Monster Raving Loony Party. Stephen Richard Ingram is an independent, as is Amy Morris. Derek Norbert Morris is an independent. Michael Noel O'Keefe, an independent. Martin O'Brien, an independent. Nick Pellis, an independent. And Ketanar Kumar Pipiaya is the UK Voice Safer and Stronger UK Party. Daniel Pocock's an independent. James Ransley, the Consensus Party candidate. Jerry Smith is an independent. Kai Stevens for the British Democrats. John Stevens for rejoin the EU. Baron von Thunderclap for the Official Monster Raving Loony Party. Pamela Walford is an independent. Marcus White, Everyone is God Party. And Mark Wilkinson for the Independents.
$49,000 people are leaving Morocco because apparently it's war-torn. But Jet2 this morning are offering 20% off a trip to Morocco for a week. Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
This is a huge football story, folks. UEFA has now said no European nation will participate in any FIFA competition so long as proposals to create a company to run the World Cup remain alive.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest because we need to talk about Thetford. That's up in Norfolk, a reasonably small town, but it has erupted for 3 nights in a row. Furious protest, anti-migrant protests, attempts to storm houses where they suspect asylum seekers are living, HMOs, houses of multiple occupations, as they call them. At one point, well, the police have made multiple arrests. At one point, the cops pepper sprayed a woman in a mobility scooter. A female cop was seriously bitten. And the asylum seekers have been forced to flee their taxpayer-funded home. As I say, 3 nights in a row that this has gone on, so we need to talk about it. Let's do that with former DCI Met Police ex-head of the National Counter-Terrorism Security Squad, Chris Phillips. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Kevin.
What are your thoughts about what's going on now? It's not new to have, shall we say, angry communities protesting about the migrants in their midst. Thetford's complaint is this, you know, nobody told us about this. All of a sudden, we've got all these migrants, these asylum seekers living in these houses in the middle of our town. Nobody told us, nobody warned us, and frankly, we don't want them here. So this started as a lawful, peaceful protest, but has every night kind of spiraled out of control, gone violent, as I just explained. Why do you think that happens? Because there's been this suggestion that there might be agents provocateurs in there trying to stir up trouble, potentially from the left.
Well, you know, the ironic thing is that Thetford is the home of Dad's Army, isn't it? When Dad's Army were desperate to keep the Germans out of the UK. Now we see them being on the front line of an issue where they don't believe that these people should be plonked into their small communities. And this is not, it's not actually just Thetford with this problem. It's right across the UK. No one wants this to happen to them. Thetford have got military sites and all sorts locally, and you can understand their displeasure. And what do they do? I mean, I'm not saying that we should be rioting. You know, thank goodness the vast majority of people don't. But people are cheesed off with this,
yeah.
Having people literally lumped into their reasonably small communities that have no allegiance with them whatsoever. It's you can understand people's frustration.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, you know, nobody condones violence, nobody condones violent protests that these have become. But I guess I'm not really asking you this as a copper or a former copper, Chris. I guess I'm asking you this as a citizen of this country. What worries me is the scenes we're seeing in Thetford, I feel might spread all across the country. There is a growing sense of fury and frustration among the people of this country. That more and more houses of multiple occupation, asylum seeker hotels, military camps, air bases, they are being more and more foisted onto unsuspecting communities all over the country. And I fear that Thetford may be the first of many protests like this. It doesn't bode well, does it?
Well, I'm quite surprised and thankful that we haven't had lots and lots of riots this summer. It's been the right summer for riots. Riots only tend to happen.
I agree with that, yeah.
When there's sunny weather, you know, that's when riots happen. It always has, you know, back from the 80s, always in the summer. They don't happen in the winter when it's raining. And I'm surprised that people have held their nerve, really, and not gone over the top with this. And I feel sorry, completely sorry for the police officers who are stuck in the middle with something that they shouldn't be having to deal with. You know, they've got crime to be getting on and dealing with, and they're having to face their residents who are absolutely frustrated because politicians just haven't listened to what they're saying. And I just don't know what the answer is. And I'm sure the people at Thetford feel very similarly, that the politicians aren't listening to them. No one's taking any notice of their concerns. And so I don't know what you do, apart from voting people out, which is, the option that you would hope would take place. But of course, one side of the political piece has put them in, and the other main parties. Big part of it as well.
Yeah,
so,
well, we don't get a say. We don't get a say, do we, until 2029? That is probably when the next general election will be. But I think you're exactly right, Chris. When people, particularly of this country, feel that they're not being listened to. I think this is what this is about. We have a Prime Minister who's A, on holiday, and B, just doesn't want to talk about the migrant crisis, even though it's the #1 issue concerning British people everywhere. When people sense that they're not being listened to, they're desperate for something to be done about a problem that really concerns them. When they feel that the government and the Prime Minister just aren't listening to them, it will result in protests, won't it?
Of course it will. And the frustrating thing is, if the Conservatives had sorted this out when they were in power, they wouldn't be in the position they're in now. And likewise, Labour are going to get annihilated at the next general election simply because they failed to deal with the problem that so many people across this country, they see the videos every day of boats arriving and they know that these attacks and things have been taking place in their cities. People aren't stupid. They really aren't stupid. And they want their politicians to do something which it seems the politicians are unwilling to do. And that's going to cause a lot of grief and a lot of angst. And of course, some people will go over the top and riot. And again, I will say this as an ex-police officer, the police are just in the middle.
Yeah. Can you just before you go, Chris, can you give us a sort of a brief summary of how cops handle these kind of situations, how they at least try to stop it exploding into violence? Tell us about the difficulties of dealing with an angry crowd.
Well, the police officers up in Thetford, I mean, they're probably dragged in from all over the region. Many of them won't have a lot to do with Thetford, won't know the residents. But it's about standing in the middle between two sets of people who don't like each other. And it really is a matter of trying to keep a breach of the peace, understanding that at the end of this, the police officers still have to be in that community. And it's a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah, I feel for the officers, but if only we had a government that would do something about this migrant crisis, we wouldn't see scenes like this. But because they refuse to do anything or even listen, I fear we're going to see more and more scenes like this. Chris, great to have you on the show, as always. Thank you so much. Chris Phillips there, former Detective Chief Inspector and a counter-terrorism security officer as well. So thanks to Chris. Let's go to break. Next up, we're going to stick with the migrant crisis in a way. We're going to talk about Britain's biggest asylum seeker accommodation centre. It is the Wethersfield former RAF base in Essex. 1,250 souls live there. And boy, oh boy, it's like a holiday camp. And we're paying for it. I'll bring you the gory details when we come back. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, a big spread in the Daily Mail yesterday. I'll sort of show it to you, shall I? There it is. And it is about Wethersfield. That is Britain's biggest asylum seeker centre. It's been there a number of years now. The headline is this: art therapy, museum trips, cricket, chess and dance, the cushy life in Britain's biggest migrant camp. And all of it is paid for by you, as in me, as in you. The taxpayers are paying for this. This lot, they've even got a football team in the local Colchester League. You know, Asylum Seeker Albion, Migrant United, or whatever the hell they're called. This is unbelievable. And we're paying for this. And we covered the story the other day that these guys, 1,275 of them, they get the opportunity every day. Several, multiple buses leave the camp ferrying these guys to neighbouring towns, particularly Braintree, very nice Essex town, where they just hang around, causing problems. We had a caller the other day saying they all march into shops and just nick stuff. They hang around on street corners, drinking, smoking, all of that, just causing an unpleasant atmosphere. Locals don't let their kids into town, and we're paying for all this. As somebody who rang us from the area said the other day, said, when I get on a bus around here, I have to pay for it. These people get free bus rides, courtesy of British taxpayers. Let's talk to Shimian Lee at the Taxpayers Alliance. Well, Shimian, hi, welcome to the show. Look, asylum seekers, I guess, we have to put them somewhere if we must let them in. And that will cost something to taxpayers. But expecting taxpayers to pay for, give them accommodation, basic accommodation, I hesitate to say fair enough, but, it is what it is. You've got to pay for that, I guess. So taxpayers, I think, would just about shoulder having to pay for basic accommodation. But why, Shimian, in your view, is it that we, well, you, me, the British taxpayers are paying for these 1,250 migrants to enjoy, among other perks, art therapy, museum trips, cricket, chess and dance, as I say, daily bus trips to the local town. Why are we paying for all of that?
Well, I think, thank you for having me. Things have gone pretty catastrophically wrong when taxpayers are running a holiday camp for asylum seekers.
That's what it is. That's what it is, a holiday camp, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a real slap to the face for local residents who can't get a GP appointment, who are struggling to make ends meet and who themselves can't afford to take their own kids out for a day out. And, taxpayers are supporting close to 100,000 asylum seekers across the entire country. At the same time, the tax burden is on track to hit a record high, and the country is £3 trillion in debt. So, I think you cannot be asking taxpayers to pay more and more while money is being spent in a way that's totally divorced from people's everyday priorities.
How have we got to this point? I mean, it's to just repeat myself, it's okay, I guess, to provide basic amenities, basic accommodation, food and water and all that. But how have we got to the point? It's not just at Wethersfield, it's all over the country, isn't it? We've heard these, frankly, grotesque stories of migrants being given free driving lessons, free trampoline lessons, days to the zoo, days to the local cricket, and so on and so forth. Why have we allowed this to happen? Why do we let them into the country? We allow them to break into this country illegally. Why then do we just sort of festoon them with all these free gifts, this free stuff that taxpayers pay for? It's an abuse of British taxpayers, isn't it?
I think you're absolutely right there. I think it's human rights law gone wild, essentially. Like you said, ideally they should remain in France. But, if they come, they should be housed in basic livable conditions, the same kind of conditions that many low-income people in this country face. But unfortunately, I think there's this whole human rights industry that makes a living off continually pushing the boundaries of what they're entitled to. And what you end up with in many cases is this sort of two-tier system where if you make a human rights claim, everyone has to bend over backwards in order to accommodate you, and everyone else basically has to fend for themselves. I think that even if they wanted to do something about it, the government has its hands tied in 1,000 different ways. And so in many ways, I think the country is not allowed to make its own asylum policy because of these human rights laws.
Well, quite. I mean, can't we sort of tell these people at Wethersfield and these other camps and hotels, look, sorry, game's up. We're not. Well, okay, we'll just about give you free accommodation, but your art therapy and your chess and dance lessons, your trampoline lessons, your free driving lessons, that's over. Why don't we just stop it now?
I mean, one of the things is the massive human rights sort of apparatus that stops the government from doing anything. And number two, I think the government itself is unwilling to do anything on this. If you think about the sort of backbenchers on the Labour side, what they would say if they tried to cut any of this. And I think let's think about the kind of signal that having all these things actually sends to people who are thinking about which country they want to make their asylum claims in. I think it's no surprise at all that asylum seekers are leaving France, which is, a safe country, and trying their luck in this country when they see the kind of conditions that they have here. And, it's no surprise that when their claims are denied, they appeal and they drag out the appeal for months and even years. And I think the bottom line is that no matter how many boats you try to stop, more people will still keep coming in as long as that incentive remains. And the government has to focus on getting rid of that incentive. Unfortunately, the government is frankly unable to do anything about it.
Yeah, there's a fund called Asylum Seekers Support. There was a story in the Sunday Express some time ago, about a year ago now, and it revealed that in that previous 3 years that something like £6.5 billion have been spent on the Asylum Seeker Support Scheme. I mean, this is grotesque. It's obscene, isn't it?
I think you're right. And, moving people to these large sites has largely been a reaction to the massive public backlash that's been against housing these asylum seekers in hotels. So we're moving from one very expensive form of accommodation to, other forms of accommodation like large sites and houses of multiple occupation that are in some cases, if not more expensive, but, at least just as expensive in some cases. And you adding all these extra things on that continues to inflate the bills for taxpayers who ultimately have to pay for all of this. So I think wherever you move them from, whether it's hotels or large sites or houses of multiple occupation, you have to solve the fundamental problem of the incentives that people have to come to this country and claim asylum.
Now, I mentioned the free bus rides that these migrants at Wethersfield get every day. So it's sort of almost a flotilla of buses leaving every day, taking them into the neighbouring towns, especially Braintree. We've had lots of calls. We've spoken to local residents. Mothers aren't letting their children into town anymore. They're not going in there themselves either. This ferrying of these foreign young men from very different cultures into the local towns is spoiling them. Braintree's a lovely sort of market town in Essex. Now it's a no-go zone for many women and parents and children. Again, madness.
I mean, it's a really good example of this sort of mission creep that comes about as a result of these human rights laws. Now, because of these human rights laws, you can't detain asylum seekers, even though they enter the country illegally. So because you can't detain them, you have to let them come and go as they please. And in addition to that, you have to, arrange these sort of bus trips for them so they can leave the area, because if not, they'd be too isolated. And, a human rights lawyer could argue that they are being detained just because it's such an isolated place. I think the number one priority of the asylum system should be security. We've got to have control over who comes in. And, I think the fact that they can come and go as they please is something that's really concerning to local residents. And number two, should be cost. We should ensure that money is only being spent on things that are necessary. And number three, which I think, is pretty important as well, is fairness, right? We cannot allow people to take advantage of the system by arriving, illegally and basically skipping the queue. The last government looked at, settling people in Rwanda. I think that was a good idea. But once again, no matter where you house them or what sort of conditions you have, if you don't have security, cost, and fairness as the guiding principle of the asylum system, you're going to end up right back at square one, where taxpayers are on the hook for massive bills.
It's spiralling out of control, Shimin. It really is. But thank you so much for coming on. Good to talk to you. Thank you. Shimi and Lee there from the Taxpayers Alliance. Let me know what you think about what you are paying for. Art therapy, museum trips, cricket, chess, dance. They've even got their own football team in the local league. Free bus rides every day to and from local towns. We're paying for all this. And by the way, that's just Wethersfield. That is Britain's biggest asylum seeker camp. They're planning an equal-sized one in Bicester, near the village of Piddington. Of course, we spoke to Tim McNally, who's leading the passionate campaign against that camp, which he says, and all the residents of that village, they call it the village that roared, they say this is just going to ruin their lovely Oxfordshire village. They've got 350 people live there and 46 kids. They say, Tim points out that if 1,250 young foreign males are imposed on their area, those children, the children of Piddington, will have their childhoods significantly affected. And we shouldn't have to live like this, should we? Let me know what you think. 03444 991 1000. You know, there's this kind of official sponsored invasion going on, and we're paying for it. This is absolute deranged insanity. 03444 991 1000. Let's go to break. Next up, we'll talk to my friend Pete Barnes, political strategist, about Rupert Lowe's apparent assertion that the King Charles, is not British. Kind of strange. We'll talk to Pete about that next. Stay tuned.
.9,000 people are leaving Morocco because apparently it's war-torn. But Jet2 this morning are offering 20% off a trip to Morocco for a week. Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
This is a huge football story, folks. UEFA has now said no European nation will participate in any FIFA competition so long as proposals to create a company to run the World Cup remain alive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, in the annals of car crash interviews by politicians, I think Rupert Lowe's encounter with the Radio 4 BBC Today programme's Nick Robinson yesterday may have just gone right up to the top of the charts. Before we talk about this, let's welcome my next guest. He's political strategist Pete Barnes. Welcome, Pete.
Hi, Kevin. Nice to see you. How's it going?
Good. Good to have you on the show. Well, Rupert Lowe has tied himself up in knots, the Restore Britain leader, by issuing this definition of what it is to be a white British person, white and British. According to Restore Britain, it's not just that you were born in Britain, which, for my money, that's what makes you British, particularly if you happen to be white, I suppose. I don't think the skin colour comes into it, but that's a different issue. So he says you can't be British if you're just born here. You can only be a proper white Brit if your parents were born here. Both your parents were born here as well. Rupert Lowe yesterday morning went onto the BBC's flagship Today programme, and Nick Robinson spotted what I would suggest is a bit of a fatal flaw in Rupert's definition of what it means to be British. Check this out.
Are you aware that by the definitions used in that particular report, King Charles is not a white Briton? Do you think he is a white Briton?
Well, many people have different interpretations of that, Nick. I mean, we can split hairs, but I think...
Well, you're not splitting hairs. Do you think the monarch of this country is a white Briton?
It's quite clear, and I think most British people, if you speak to them, would agree. And that is why
King Charles a white
Britain's
Briton?
membership is growing very fast, and your listeners are dropping equally fast because you don't reflect actually what's happening.
Why don't you answer the question now we've got you on?
You try and whitewash all of the British that are happening.
Is King Charles a white Briton?
Climate change, you peddle DEI, you peddle all of the malign agenda, which British people have got bored of.
Right.
So
Pete, he's refusing to say that the sovereign of this country, King Charles, is a white Brit. Now, of course, what this all refers to is the fact that by Rupert Lowe's definition, or by Restore Britain's definition, in fact, the King is not a white British person because, of course, his dad, Prince Philip, was born in Greece. You know, my old man, my parents, because they're of that generation when Prince Philip first came on the scene, always referred to Prince Philip as Phil the Greek. A whole generation called him that for many years. Nothing wrong with that, of course. But that, according to Rupert Lowe, means he's not British. Well, he had the chance there to say, well, of course he's British, but he refused to do so. As I say, in political terms, I would suggest that is one hell of a car crash interview.
Yeah, it's what we go, and the Oscar goes to kind of moments. I mean, this is it was an astounding moment, if I'm being honest. You know, I do find it interesting. You keep saying it's Rupert Lowe's definition. This actually comes from a report that was done by Matt Goodwin of Reform UK, where it says that by 2063, the white British category will be a minority. That's within most people's lifetimes. And it's an important conversation. But the issue is, and Restore fall into this trap, they don't have a definition about what they're talking about. So basically what's happened, Rupert has ended up defending a definition done by a guy who works for a different political party because they, Restore Britain, don't actually define the terms that they're actually talking about. I watched Charlie Downs on here the other day with Julia Hartley-Brewer. He fell into the exact same trap. Until they actually say what they mean by white, British, native-born, all these terminology, they're going to end up continually defending other people's definitions rather than talking about demographic change, which I think a lot of people are concerned about.
One thing I would say, Pete, I've just had Richard Tice in the studio, and as a bit of a joke, we did the interview about how it should happen. So he is the Deputy Leader of Reform UK, and I said, Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK, is King Charles a white Brit? And he went, yes, he is. So that's Reform UK's line. Restore Britain's line seems to be he's not a white Brit, which is, frankly, kind of Alice in Wonderland absurd, isn't it?
Yeah, they're getting themselves all wrapped into knots because they don't have a single line. They don't have the media narrative to go, when they ask us this question, we all say this particular thing. The one thing I will give Reform UK is when this stuff happens to them, they're very good at getting everybody on the same page. They're very good at putting forward a defence and making sure that they're all singing from the same hymn sheet. Restore have that lack of professionalism where this would not have happened to a professional politician. They would not have wandered straight into this trap. A proper campaign and a proper team would have seen this and said, oh, we need to make sure that, this is not, leading us into this kind of embarrassing situation.
But also it sort of exposes the other flaw in this sort of white British argument. Both your parents must have been born here, which is as if to say, well, if one of them or both of them weren't, that will probably make you a person of colour. Well, the Greeks are not people of colour, are they? They're white. So again, this white British lark, it doesn't hold water, does it, this entire argument?
No, it's a foolish line to go down until they actually have this, like I say, this kind of clarification about what they mean, because we get to have this conversation about them rather than talking about demographic change, which is what they want us to all talk about. I mean, until they actually get that in line, they're all over the place on this issue, and they'll keep wandering into these bear traps that they're laid for themselves. And then they'll do what Rupert did there. They'll scream establishment stitch up, when in fact they were the ones that laid the trap for themselves by not actually, thinking before they open their mouths.
Do you think that interview, there are these moments in every politician's career that sometimes they never get over? It keeps coming back to haunt them, like Michael Howard and Something of the Night, as Anne Widdecombe said about him. There are these moments that for some politicians, they never escape from the shackles of them. Do you think Rupert Lowe may experience something similar with his refusal to confirm, essentially, that the King was British?
Oh, I think this is going to hang around for a little bit if they don't change the narrative, if they don't actually do something to combat this. Because, like you say, this will be the one that's put on repeat by all opposing media stations again and again and again. I mean, all the Labour Party have to do, or Lib Dems, whoever, is put a picture of Rupert Lowe and he says he doesn't think the King is white British. And that's it. I mean, they put that through everybody's letterbox in their key constituencies, and their vote will tumble to even smaller than it is already. It is this naivety of young political parties that really let themselves
you're right.
down.
It's not professional, and Rupert Lowe should know. If they hate you, they despise you. That's fine. If they're laughing at you, you're in trouble. Pete,
exactly.
Pete, good to have you on the show as always. Great stuff. Pete Barnes, political strategist there. Let me ask you: is the King British? 03444991000. We're going to go to the 5 o'clock news now, and afterwards I'll be joined by the Director of Popular Conservatism, Mark Littlewood. Go through all the big stories of the day. You don't want to miss it, so stay where you are. See you in a minute.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to the second hour of this fabulous Friday edition of Drive Time, and we are firing on all cylinders. Lots still to get through. In a little while, I'm going to be asking, well, look, I'm going to be talking to a former top cop who says that the preposterous Professor Jason Arday, while we all laugh at his ludicrous litany of lies, this Walter Mitty character who seemed to successfully con so many British establishments like Cambridge University, the BBC, the various charities, the publishing industry, you name it, he conned them. There's a serious side to this. I mean, for example, you know, being hired by Cambridge University as a professor comes with a salary of between sort of 80 to 83,000 and 150,000 pounds a year. Now, given that he conned his way into that job with lies, I'm going to speak to a cop who's going to tell you that is criminal fraud, and that's not the only situation Jason Arday, the fantasist, conned his way into on lies to make money. We could be dealing with a serious case of criminal fraud. We'll talk about that in a little while. But in the meantime, let's go over to my next guest. We're going to go through some of the big stories of the day with the Director of Popular Conservatism, Mark Littlewood. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Kev. Good to be with you.
Always a pleasure. We're going to do this story at length in just a little while, but I want to get your take on it. Kemi Badenoch, Tory leader, says that her government, a Tory government, would end council housing for foreigners. So that would apparently, and if she all social housing in which there was not at least one Brit or EU citizen or Irish citizen would be cleared out. Those people would be evicted. This would apparently clear out or free up 230,000 households, 230,000 social council houses would have basically have all their residents evicted. Now, I mean, to my mind, it makes some sense. I mean, apparently in London, just about half of all social housing has been allocated to foreigners, foreign-born nationals. So there's something wrong here. But how do you, you know, when the Labour criticised Kemi's policy for being unworkable, I mean, surely they have got a point. It would be pretty difficult to evict 230,000 households, wouldn't it?
Well, it's an administrative challenge, Kev, but it seems to me a reasonable one, right? I mean, I think that, you know, how would you do it? You write to everybody in social housing. You demand to see the passports and proof of national identity of the residents, or at least one of them, as you've said. If it's a British citizen living with an American citizen, that's not a problem. You clear the hurdle, but you'll need to prove that at least one of your tenants is British, EU settled status, or Irish. Yeah, I'm not saying you can implement that overnight, but I can't see that it's beyond the wit of man. It doesn't solve our housing problem overnight, Kev. I mean, we need many, many more than 200,000 new homes to hit the market. That we need a lot more house building. But it also seems to me eminently fair. I mean, one can scratch one's head and say, how on earth have we got into this situation? Why is the British taxpayer on the hook for the housing of foreign nationals? It's absolutely bewildering. I'm not quite sure why EU citizens are being given a pass here. It might be something to do with the precise nature of the Brexit deal or something. But I would have thought that you say social housing, insofar as it exists, I mean, I want to get more and more people into private housing, but insofar as it exists, is for British citizens. You clearly need to do this in a humane fashion. I'm open to arguments about whether you're given, 3 months' notice, 6 months' notice, 9 months, 12 months in order to get your affairs into order. It's not just going to be a knock at the door from the bailiffs, but it's absolutely ridiculous that we've got British citizens queuing up, desperate to get on the housing ladder, some desperate to get into social housing, and we're giving away best part of 250,000 housing units to foreign nationals. Absolute madness.
Now let's think about social housing generally as council houses, folks, council houses and council flats. Now, this has been a system that has been, basically prospering since the Second World War, the famous Homes Fit for Heroes and all that. We now have 11 million people living in social housing. That's 17% of the population. And they are living in around about 4 million households. So you've got 4 million social housing properties inhabited by 11 million people. Andy Burnham, of course, the great socialist, wants to expand this. He wants many more council houses. Now, you're an economist. The problem with social housing is it actually defies the principles of economics. These houses are being rented out for way below their market value. So therefore, the more social housing you have, the more you damage your economy. And Andy Burnham wants to expand our council housing. He wants to put it on steroids. He wants to turbocharge it. So that will be very, very damaging to our economy, won't it?
Yeah, and the other thing here, Kev, is that, whatever talents you think Andy Burnham has, I'm not aware
none, as far as I can work out, but that's another issue.
I'm certainly not aware that he is either an architect or a builder. The idea that homes and houses constructed by the state under political guidance are better than homes or houses constructed by the private sector is for the birds. I actually live in, and talking to you from, an ex-council flat. This was built by the government in the 1960s. It's all been flogged off. I think nearly all of the estate I'm on at the moment is private housing. But look, the market is more than willing to do this. There are loads of builders and construction companies out there, but we've made the building of houses nearly impossible in the private sector. The checks that you need to go through, the number of the small number of complaints that completely derail you, the number of boxes you need to tick just to put up a relatively small residential building is extraordinary. So Andy Burnham might be right that we need more houses, but we don't need the Labour government to build them. We need the Labour government, or a government of any stripe, just to make building a lot easier. We have made it damned near impossible to get anything built. We do need a much greater supply of housing. We do, hopefully not in a crash, but over a longer period of time, I think need house prices to drop relative to wages. I don't want to see house prices fall off the edge of a cliff, because it's the nest egg for a lot of people. You save in your home and perhaps cash it in and downsize later in life. But we live in a situation in which in Britain, the average property price is, roughly speaking, 7 or 8 times average income. In the United States of America, it's about 3 or 4 times average income. We need to get much more to that ratio. It's beyond the reach of most young people starting out on their careers, unless there's a very generous bank of mum and dad. You usually need that in order to even get on the property ladder. So over a 10, 20, 25-year period, we've got to build extensively and see, if not property prices drop, then flatline as wages grow. But we don't need the Minister for Housing to do this. We need the Minister for Housing to make sure it's just easier to build, and the market will gladly step up to the plate and will produce something much better than the government. The private sector always produces better than the public sector.
Of course it does. Of course it does. I'm old. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Matt. I'm old enough to remember mass nationalisation, and any time anybody says to me, oh, we should nationalise the water companies, what about the rail companies? I said, no. Nationalisation never, ever works. It is always a disaster. But to go back to this social housing, council housing issue, the problem with Andy Burnham's plan to massively expand our number of council houses, you can compare it to, that communist mayor in New York at the moment, Mamdani. So he set up all of these, they're called thrift stores, real socialist dream, where groceries and household products and everything are being sold literally for less than their value, because people can afford them then. So if you start selling things for less than their value, that is economic insanity. Council housing, in the end, is sort of flogging stuff or flogging property, rental albeit, for less than its value. So expanding council housing will inflict unbelievable damage to our economy. Again, it's Andy Burnham, socialist. He doesn't understand these things.
No, that's exactly right. The minute, look, there are certain exceptions, but very few, Kev. The minute you start meddling with the price mechanism, and the minute that you think that politicians start to think they know better what the price of something should be than the open market does. So this lunacy in New York, in which the mayor is effectively setting grocery prices, you are 2 steps away from the Sovietization of your economy. And if you start fixing prices below the market rate, what happens? You get shortages and you get queues, right? The market price ebbs and flows according to supply and demand. You never really get to an equilibrium. It's a permanent process of churn, changing habits, different input costs, different factor costs, all of the rest of it. But, this was literally the Soviet Union's approach to the food supply. That, a minister of bread and a committee would determine how many loaves were sent to each town, village and city and the price of those, and it would be set low because people need bread, and guess what? You get shortages. So you're far better to take a step away from that and say we're not going to play around with the market here. We are going to let the market do its work. And when that comes to housing, we don't need, state financed builders to do all of this. You just need to get out of the way. You need to make it easy for the market to flourish. And our housing sector, not just housing, frankly, building anything, Kev, right, whether it's a factory or a new airport or anything else, damned near impossible. So if Andy Burnham fixed that part of it, and if he doesn't, some future government's going to need to, worry not. The market will step forward and the price will find its own level on the open market, and you dabble with that at your peril. The minute you start price fixing, you are almost certain to get shortages. Businesses don't want to provide products and services at a loss, right?
Of course not.
If you're running a thrift store and being told that you've got to sell, I don't know, milk and bread at below market price, you're not inclined to do so. You want to do as little of that as possible. So, yeah, there is a market solution to this, but unfortunately governments always think they're wiser and better than allowing the open market economy to do its magic and do its work.
Exactly right. Now, let's talk about the Prevent scheme. That's the scheme that allegedly deals with extremism, radicalisation of young people in particular, and sets them on the right course. The story today is a great alarm because referrals to Prevent have rocketed. But the big story, particularly stressed, of course, in The Guardian and The Mirror, is that there's been a 42%. There's been a massive surge in extreme right-wing referrals, far-right referrals. Yeah. So they're saying, that's the big problem, that the number of referrals for far-right extremists has rocketed by 1/5. Now, that's fair enough, OK. There's still a very large number of them are Islamic extremists. But all this headline, far-right extremists, they've soared, we've got all these far-right extremists. When was the last time any of us saw an act of far-right terrorism?
Yeah.
But whereas I think we don't have to rack our brains too much to think when was the last time we saw an act of Islamic terrorism. Yeah. The authorities always want to say far-right terrorism, that's the problem. No, it isn't. Yeah. I can't remember an act of far-right terrorism. The problem is Islamic terrorism.
Yeah, overwhelmingly that's the case, Kev. There are instances of it. I'm trying to remember back to
I'll tell you,
bombing in Soho. There was a gay pub that was bombed.
Yeah, but I think the last one was that guy who drove up in a white van all the way from Wales to go to the Finsbury Park Mosque and charged up on a pavement and killed someone. But a long time ago.
Yeah, it exists, but you're right. If we look at the actual acts and tabulated them, it's not the biggest bulk of the terrorist problem. And there's a further problem, isn't there, Kev? If we're measuring it by referrals, Are people now just more sensitive to seeing things and labelling them far right? Because to listen to much political discourse in the United Kingdom, you'd assume that virtually everybody is a racist and a misogynist and an extremist and of far-right opinions. These labels are thrown around like confetti to apply even to pretty mainstream politicians. How often has Nigel Farage been labelled a far-right?
I think you and I, Mark, would, by the Guardian saying, would definitely be far-right. Far-right extremists.
So when the Guardian refer us to prevent, then,
only a matter of time, mate. Only a matter of time. It's going to happen very soon.
So that's the thing, isn't it? That if you tell people that there are sort of Nazis and misogynists everywhere, and people in the state sector have a sort of obligation to report it, people start seeing things. I'm not going to go so far as to say that aren't there, but you start to exaggerate. So the referrals going up might not be any indication of an increase in far-right activity. It might simply be that the people who are making the referrals are more and more sensitive, perhaps oversensitive, to seeing such things. So I'm a sceptic. I'm a sceptic about the whole Prevent programme.
Oh, I mean, it's not very good.
More balls than it catches, doesn't it? It drops more balls than it catches.
Yeah, but wasn't Axel Rudikabana referred to them 3 times, and 3 times they decided nothing to see here, no problem at all. So well done, Prevent, on that issue. Let me ask you about Thetford. 3 nights in a row, there's been serious disturbances, violent protests, or let's put it this way, protests that have turned violent. Big clashes with the police outside of asylum seeker houses of multiple occupation. Now, of course, we don't condone violence, but I would suggest this is a community that is exploding in rage over the fact that it has a government and a prime minister who doesn't even want to talk about the migrant crisis. It's the #1 concern of British citizens is the migrant crisis. We have a prime minister who says, I'm going to give you a new social care system and I'm going to give you millions more mayors, and if you want to talk about it, no dice, because I'm off on holiday. I think the people of Thetford are furious at not being listened to, and I fear, Mark, for the same reason, we may see more and more social unrest like this.
Yeah, I think your fears are well placed, Kev. I mean, obviously, we can't have, it's not remotely acceptable to be throwing bricks through the windows of houses that you suspect might have asylum seekers in them. Whether you're right that it's got asylum seekers in them or not, just no, can't allow that. Such people need to be arrested and punished. But what's causing the problem, and I think you're onto something, Kev, but I'm going to extend it back a good few years. Yeah, sure, Andy Burnham's government doesn't really look like it's got a plan with regard to...
They don't care about it, Mark. They don't care about it. That's what's annoying people.
Yeah, there's no real policy here. There's just, a claim they're going to get a grip on it. But for the British people, and as you say, Kev, it's sort of top of the charts for the most consistent issue that people are worried about. I can understand their absolute white fury and anger. And it's not so much that Andy Burnham doesn't appear to have a plan here. It is for years and years and years, and election after election after election, the British people have voted for governments that have promised to tackle this problem and get it under control, and the exact opposite has happened. Election after election, I'm blaming the Conservative Party for much of that. And the problem is, if you as the electorate start by thinking, well, I want something to change, so I'm going to vote for it, it doesn't happen. You think, well, that's a bit disappointing. I'll vote for it again. It still doesn't happen. Well, I'm now quite annoyed. I'll vote for it a 3rd time. It still doesn't happen. Eventually, people lose faith, I'm afraid, in the democratic system. And as far as asylum and immigration is concerned, the gap in terms of approach, concern and policy and desired outcomes of our ruling elite compared to the average Brit, that gap is a chasm. So the democratically expressed will of the British people has not been executed by successive governments, despite the mandate being emphatically clear from the British electorate. And when the electorate in any country start to think, you know what, it turns out, even if we all clearly vote for something, we don't get it. It's simply not implemented. We're not being taken seriously. then their fury, boils over, and they start doing, not protesting might be the first thing, but it turns violent because the democratic system has failed. We have to find a way soon, pronto, sharpish, to get our governing elite aligned to the actual wishes of the average Brit. And at the moment, they are miles apart. So it's the whole democratic system that is kind of called into question because it simply seems unwilling or incapable of carrying out the wishes as expressed at the ballot box. And if that doesn't change, we're going to see a lot more Thetfords.
Yeah, and I suppose if you have a Prime Minister who gets his way into Downing Street unhindered by even a hint of democracy, you can't expect him to act democratically. But you're exactly right, Mark. People are getting more and more fed up with this guy and his government. They're just not listening to us. They're just imposing on us what they want. We want millions of mayors and much more devolution, said no one ever except Andy Burnham. I'm going to give you a massive new social care system. It's going to cost a fortune. I'm going to give you a 1.8% levy. You'll have to pay for it. Well, I'm sure we need to reform our social care system, but we didn't ask for that. He's going down his own furrow and ignoring us, and that is a recipe for trouble. He's going to find that out, I fear, Mark, in the weeks and months to come. Great to talk to you, mate. Always a pleasure. Have a good weekend. That's Mark Littlewood, Director of Popular Conservatism there. Next up, we'll talk to former independent mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. We're going to go back to that council house pledge by Kemi Badenoch. A government of hers, a Tory government, would not allow foreigners, foreign-born nationals, to get any council houses, any social housing, and they would evict any household that didn't have at least, in council houses, that didn't have at least one British citizen or EU citizen or Irish citizen. By the way, Kemi, I thought we'd left the EU. Why have you got EU citizen in there? What's that all about? We'll talk to Andy about that next. Stay tuned.
$49,000 people are leaving Morocco because apparently it's war-torn. But Jet2 this morning are offering 20% off a trip to Morocco for a week. Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
This is a huge football story, folks. UEFA has now said no European nation will participate in any FIFA competition so long as proposals to create a company to run the World Cup remain alive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we'll talk to Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. He has plans for Jason Arday, and I think he's got a point. He says that this guy should be prosecuted for criminal fraud. He conned his way into jobs, at least one job that could have been was probably worth £100,000 a year, at least, a Cambridge University professor. You know, you can't do that on lies. If you do that on lies, you've effectively conned yourself 100 grand a year. That, last time I looked, was criminal fraud. So we'll talk to Mike about that in just a little while. But in the meantime, let's go over to political commentator, former independent mayor of Middlesbrough, Andy Preston. Hi, Andy.
Kevin, hi.
Good to have you on the show, as always. What do you make of Kemi Badenoch's pledge that a Tory government under her would ban all foreign nationals from social houses, council housing, and more, even more than that, would go through all the current residents of social housing and any house or flat that didn't have at least one UK citizen or Irish citizen or EU citizen, those people would be evicted. That would clear up 230,000 social housing properties. What do you make? What do you think?
Well, Kevin, at first glance, it sounds fantastic. It sounds totally common sense. You know, if you and I went down the high street and asked the public, you know, who should be at the front of the queue for social housing, everyone would say people who were born here, grew up here, and have paid into the system for years. So it makes complete common sense. I think that and we need lots of detail on this, of course, because it'll require changes in the law and all sorts of things. You know what, also, remember the government doesn't own these properties. They're owned by housing associations in the main, sometimes councils, but usually through a third party. So making it happen won't be as easy as many people think. But if we went down the high street, Kevin, and asked people, everyone would agree with the principle of this. I guess where I'm starting to wonder is that where you've got a family, there might be a lovely, hard-working family, happen to have been born abroad, they're adding value to the community, they work hard, the kids are doing well at school, and the idea of turfing them out seems very harsh to me. Very harsh to me.
Let me ask you this, Andy. Here's something in this proposal, this plan, that caught my eye. So, in terms of this potential eviction of all households, all flats that don't contain at least one UK citizen or Irish citizen, I'll go along with that, Kevin O'Sullivan, I'd have to, wouldn't I? EU citizen? I thought so. Has Miss Badenoch missed the fact we left the EU? Why would EU citizens get a break?
I cannot understand why that would be. And I do not think for a minute there is a single legal restriction on that now we have left the EU. There will be no reciprocal agreement or necessity. So I can't for the life of me understand that. I think this is plagued with trouble. I mean, I love the idea of it. The principle is good. And certainly, any time now you say, right, from now on, from tomorrow, if you go on a housing list, it's going to be British-born people that are ahead of you. And nobody should disagree with that. I think, though, they might have rushed this. I mean, Andy Burnham, like him or loathe him, an opinion is split. He had a good couple of weeks before he nicked off to Benidorm or wherever he's gone. He had a good couple of weeks, lots of announcements. The public seemed to like it. And I wonder if this is a knee-jerk to try and seem tough and win favour with the public without being properly thought through.
Do you think, you know, she obviously always vehemently rejects any such suggestion, but I'm going to say what I think this is. This is a party leader, Tory leader, who's in some trouble. Now, she is a great performer. She personally is doing brilliantly. Let's not beat about the bush here. Her party is bombing. It's sinking without trace. The Tories are in major trouble, and they are, of course, assailed by their right-wing rivals, Reform UK and Restore Britain. I would suggest this is Kemi Badenoch trying to act a bit like them, to be more right-wing, to be a bit more Nigel Farage, a bit more Rupert Lowe, try and get a few more votes back in the hat for the Tories. That's what I think might be going on here.
Kevin, I think there's been pressure on all the party leaders to be tough on certain hot button issues. I mean, even Labour started, via Shabana Mahmood mainly, but other Labour prominent people too, talking really tough on immigration and saying the things they wouldn't have said 3, 4, 5 years ago. There's undoubtedly pressure. Look, I think Kemi is a strong performer. I think she'll do a lot better once Parliament goes back and get in the debate. And I think Burnham will.
I think she's going to kill Burnham, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm looking forward to that.
Kevin, he's going to be vague, he's going to be uncertain, he's going to blush, and she's going to go through the throat. But you hit on something, and I think you're right, is that at the end of the day, as popular as she is with much of the public, and I'm a fan, by the way, that's my,
I like Kemi, I'm like so many other British citizens, fed-up British citizens. I'm not of a mind to forgive the Tories for 14 years of mismanagement of this country, successive prime ministers, Cameron, May, Johnson, Truss to an extent, Rishi Sunak, for imposing on this country. Their gift to us was the migrant crisis. They started it, they embellished it, they made it work, they turned it into a massive national crisis. Of course, Labour have succeeded in making it worse, but it was the Tories' fault, and like many others, I'm not prepared to forgive them. And I don't think Kemi has any concept of how furious so many people in this country are still with the Tories for giving us this shambles, the migrant crisis.
Well, there's no doubt, Kevin, that things are really tough on the Tories. I mean, they did a really bad job in many ways. Some things actually went quite well, but we don't talk about them. But, from the ravages of COVID, the cost of living crisis and the financial crisis in the early 2010s, I think the party fell apart. It lost direction. It had no strong, effective leadership, and it really, really struggled. And people are angry, undoubtedly. I think Kemi's got the chance to rebuild, and I think that she's got time on her side. But at the end of the day, being a party leader is like being a football manager, and you're going to get judged on results. And instead of the result being a Saturday night scoreline, it's the opinion polls. So the opinion polls have got to pick up. Labour's got to bounce. But is it temporary, Kevin? I suspect it is. It's quite interesting lately. I mean, all we've been assailed with is announcements about what Reform UK will do about the migrant crisis, what they do about this, what they do about that. Rupert Lowe, this is what we do. Now we get the Tories, this is what we do. Well, lovely announcements, everyone, but I don't think there'll be a general election until 2029. So, in a sense, all of this is just headline hunting, isn't it? It is. Attention grabbing. I think what's really interesting is beneath the headline polls, when people are asked about who they trust most on the economy, believe it or not, the Tories still come out very much strongest. And in my opinion, that's what they've got to play to. Instead of trying to go too far left or right, they've got to be the serious adults in the room when it comes to the economy, because things are not going to get better economically. And they've got to be seen as the adults that will do the difficult things and take tough decisions.
And they also very much at the moment look like a one-woman party, and that is a problem as well. Kemi is very impressive. The rest of them, Andy, really good to have you on the show. Have a fantastic weekend, mate. That's Andy Preston, political commentator and former independent mayor of Middlesbrough. Next up, we'll talk to Mike Neville, former Met Police detective, about Jason Arday. We're all laughing about him, the preposterous professor, and all his litany of ludicrous lies, Walter Mitty. But there's a serious element to this. Arguably, this guy has conned his way with his lies into a lot of money. So if you con your way into money, last time I looked, that is criminal fraud. We'll talk to Mike about that after the break, so stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Jason Arday, shall we? We've all had a good laugh at his expense and all the idiots at Cambridge University and the BBC and the police and the charities and the publishing industry that all fell for his litany of ludicrous lies. I mean, my favourite, I think the 6 marathons in 6 days with a broken leg is right up there, but probably starring in the BBC intermittent series 7 Up, where they visited a bunch of kids every 7 years of their life. Fascinating stuff, actually. He said that he starred in that. Well, the first episode was 1964. I think he's currently about 41. When he said that he'd been in that show, I think it was 39. So quite hard for a 39-year-old to star in a TV show that was made in 1964, if you see what I mean. So it's all very funny. It is funny, but there's a really serious side to it. First of all, I think Cambridge University have really got to dig their way out of this hole for the sake of their reputation. They've got to. Those investigations that they promised that they would launch into him, they shouldn't say just because he's quit, we're not going to investigate him. They must carry on for the sake of their reputations. But there's another side to this. So he conned his way with lies. And he's got other gigs as well that have made him money, apparently. But we'll focus in on this one for the sake of argument. He conned his way in to Cambridge University, to Jesus College, to become a professor of sociology. Now, Cambridge professors earn between £82,000 and £150,000 a year. So, yeah, he's probably getting about 100 grand a year, right? So he conned his way into a job that was paying him £100,000 a year. Now, last time I looked, that's a clear-cut case of criminal fraud. Does Jason Arday need to be prosecuted? Let's ask a former Met Police detective, Mike Neville. Hi, Mike.
Yes, good evening, Kevin.
Well, there's the question. I think he does. I mean, it's not just his Cambridge professorship. For example, he says that he got a £1.4 million book contract. I suspect, knowing him, that's an exaggeration. But he has got a book coming out next week, published by Simon & Schuster. They must have paid him a load of money, and it must be based on his lies, because everything about his life is a lie. Now, all very funny, but that's criminal fraud, isn't it?
It is, and so it is Section 2 of the Fraud Act 2006, fraud by misrepresentation, when you claim that you've done all these things on your CV and then get a job and all the money, as you've indicated. And there's a clear parallel here, because I was involved in the case against Chief Constable Nick Adley, who you'll remember was wearing, Northern Ireland,
Falklands guy,
Falklands medals, and then claiming, despite being in the Navy for about 6 months, he was in fact a lieutenant commander who'd attended all sorts of.
No, he was actually a sea cadet, wasn't he? Or something.
Well, I think he was in for about 6 months, Yeah. But in any case, this man, he has been charged with exactly that offence. There's real parallels here, that Adley made all these claims about a sort of militaristic policing,
and therefore augmented his career, garnered himself a bigger salary on the basis of his fraudulent claims. So yes, there's a parallel to be drawn here, isn't there?
I mean, what comes across with this Arday character, of course, is the sheer ridiculousness of it all. As you said, he apparently saved a suicide victim as well. But all this nonsense needs to be, let's take away from the sort of Lord Toby Young, was describing it as a sort of Ali G type stuff, which it is.
Professor Ali G, yeah.
One, he should be charged with fraud. But there's one thing I think we can thank him for, though, Kevin, because James O'Brien has had to admit feeling like a mug.
Yeah.
Now, of all the despicable radio presenters, that's James O'Brien and his lefty views.
You'll have to remind me, Mark. I don't think I've heard of him.
And dreadful LBC.
I know who he is. I know who he is.
I've got to say, having sparred with him, and his lefty ways, that I think we can thank Arday for at least one.
Well, yeah, and because James would, of course, be fooled by this because he's part of the left-wing political establishment.
Ali G would have had James O'Brien over, you know, just like Tony Benn. You can imagine how they spoke to these people. Yeah. Can you meet this young black guy off the street? He's so cool. They couldn't wait to be had over by him, and Arday is the proof of that.
Yeah, what I've been saying, I'm sure you agree, is that, you know, it's too simplistic to say, oh, these stupid idiots at Cambridge University, these idiots at the BBC who put him on Question Time, made him guest editor of the Today programme and made him a regular on Laura Kunsberg's programme. These idiots at the publishing companies who publish his books, these idiots at the charities that fostered him, and so on and so forth. You know, how did they believe him? How did they believe him? These lies are obvious. So I'll tell you why. Because they wanted to believe him. They wanted to believe him.
Absolutely. But as you said, this is a criminal matter. And if the police are going to start... if they've got time to investigate a Times journalist who asked legitimate questions to expose his nonsense, then they have time to investigate a fraud. And this is a fraud which involves, you know, hundreds of thousands of pounds. So as you say, it's not just the university money he's had, it's all the TV fees, all the life, all the publishing fees, etc., etc., etc. And this is a serious matter. And if Adley can be charged with it, then so can Arday.
Yeah, Arday should get his collar felt. And if nothing else, Mike, that would, in terms of Scotland Yard, make amends for the fact that they had to apologise for the sinister and outrageous fact that Scotland Yard investigated the journalist who first exposed Jason Arday's phony PhD.
Where did it all go wrong? You know, Scotland Yard used to investigate the Cray twins and the Great Train Robbery, didn't they? And Villainy and the Flying Squad, who would capture all these top criminals. And now we're investigating a journalist for asking legitimate questions.
The Scotland. Who was it at Scotland Yard that decided in a month of Sundays that a reporter practising journalism asking someone questions was a crime, was criminal harassment?
I'll tell you what it was, Kevin. It was somebody who likes listening to James O'Brien in the morning.
I think you're probably right. You know, some copper who buys into this myth that somehow or other the police have become the woke enforcement squad. Well, I say it's a myth. They have become that, but they shouldn't be. Let me just quickly get you on what... there's a couple of other issues I need to talk to you about, Mike. The first is the Met Police Chief, Mark Rowley, hot on the heels of apologising for investigating that journalist who exposed Jason Arday, has now said that the system for protecting coppers is broken. And what he's talking about is the release of the killers of Andrew Harper, PC Andrew Harper, which he says will send a terrible message to anyone intent on causing harm to coppers. You know, you don't get much of a sentence. So he says something has to be done about this, and I guess he's saying they should not be released.
Well, they shouldn't be released, and it was PC Andrew Harper's mother and wife who campaigned for what they call Harper's Law, where you do get a longer sentence if you kill a police officer or emergency service worker. But the problem is, of course, it's not retrospective. So the man who suffered to get that law in, Andrew Harper, his killers are not subject to it. But this is something where the Prime Minister, rather than being on holiday, should be thinking this is a national emergency, because when you're in command, you are in command and you don't go on holiday when there's an emergency. He should grip this and bring in emergency legislation to stop those two horrible individuals being released.
Yeah, Jake Richards, he's the sentencing minister. I'm sure you've heard of him. No, me neither. But he was on the BBC a couple of days ago, and he said, well, the thing is, you know, we've included manslaughter in the crimes for which you can be released in September. So 5,000 dangerous men will be released next month, and among them people guilty of manslaughter. So Jake Richards, and by extension the government, said, well, it would be wrong to exclude these two thugs, these toe rags who killed PC Harper, because for some reason they only got manslaughter. Well, you know, I'm not interested in these legal principles. Why don't you just, as a government, just say, I tell you what, they're not getting out, end of story, and if we get in legal trouble, we'll deal with that tomorrow. How about that?
Yeah, but and the other thing, Kevin, is the will to keep them in. At the moment, I think there's a lefty view that prisoners
they want to
don't
release them,
don't
don't
they? So I wrote a plan on the back of a fag packet. You know, you could put porter cabins in the empty spaces within the exercise yard.
Well, but I say build Nightingale prisons like the
might build those. You could release a lot of female prisoners who are not violent and take over Holloway Prison. You could do all these things. I could sit there and I could do this, and you could sort it out. But there's no will.
The government hasn't suggested any plans to stop the regular release of thousands of very dangerous prisoners. They just say, our hands are tied, the prisons are full, so we'll have to keep doing this. It's unbelievable. Listen, this is very important breaking news, Mike. A manhunt has been launched for a child rapist who absconded while on escorted community leave in Perth city centre. That's Perth in Scotland, of course. Cliff Lyons Doby, if you're watching on telly, there's a picture of him, bald guy with glasses. He's a restricted patient. Is described as a white male, 5'3" tall, stocky and muscular. He's been detained in secure units since 1990. After he raped a 10-year-old girl in Glasgow. NHS Tayside said it is working with Police Scotland to trace a missing patient, and members of the public are urged not to approach him. What were they doing letting him wander around a city centre, Perth city centre? What on earth were they thinking?
Well, the same clever people who come up with these ideas are the same things that, we won't lock up Callaghan because he's a black man and there's too much mental illness. They'll think of this character, he can be cured. It's the same sort of woke lefty liberalism that we see, that they forget about the victims and treat the offender as though they deserve something better. This man should be locked in a dungeon somewhere. He should be spending money on him. He's an evil man who's created utter misery and ruined a girl's life.
Yeah.
This is what's wrong. It's the will of the establishment, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly right. We call a man a monster who raped a 10-year-old girl. We call him a restricted patient. Come on.
He would be restricted. I'd have him chained to the wall. That would be
I mean, what are they doing? Why are they taking this guy out? Oh, let's go for a trip
inside their heads. Get inside their head, Kevin. They believe that this man is a victim. He can change. We've got to get out of this madness. As I said before, as they have denazification at the end of the Second World War, we need
wokification. We really do. This is insane. This is insane. Very, very worrying for the people of Perth, of Scotland in general. Mike, thank you so much for coming on. It's always a pleasure. Thank you. Mike Neville, former Met Police detective on a number of issues, but that story in Perth. A child rapist to take him for a day out. Come and have a day out. It's a nice sunny day. Let's go to Perth, shall we? Well, he's escaped. He's got away. What are they thinking? Here's a better idea. Don't take him for a little day trip into Perth. How about that? Just a thought. God almighty. Let's go to break, and when we come back, I'll bring you a story that, if you haven't seen it on social media, will blow your mind, so stick around.
49,000 people are leaving Morocco because apparently it's war-torn. But Jet2 this morning are offering 20% off a trip to Morocco for a week. Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
This is a huge football story, folks. UEFA has now said no European nation will participate in any FIFA competition so long as proposals to create a company to run the World Cup remain alive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, there's an MP. Her name is Samantha Nisbet. She's a Labour MP. You may have heard of her because she's been waging a very important campaign for a pro-porn summer of sex. She wants us all to be much less uptight about sex toys and sex generally, so she's really important. Yeah, thanks, Samantha. But now she's really taken the biscuit. She has released this video, put it on Twitter, on social media generally, where she is railing against the new guidance on single-sex spaces. She doesn't care about women's rights. She takes the sexist line that women should be suppressed and they should put up with having blokes, men in skirts in their private safe spaces. In other words, like ladies' loos and stuff. You know, one worries about the standard of MPs these days, doesn't one? And here's an example of why we should be very worried. Take it away, the absurd Samantha Nisbet.
So ashamed. I'm so unbelievably ashamed. And I promise you, I will continue to use my platform as an MP to fight for the rights of trans people. Because don't kid yourself, ladies. They're coming for you after they come for the rest of the LGBT community. They're coming for you. They're coming for us. Stop pretending this is about protecting women's rights. It's nothing of the sort.
And then she goes on to say, people will look back on this and realise how rubbish politicians were. Well, you got that one right, Samantha. Let's talk to the assistant editor at The Critic, Joe Bartosh. Joe, I mean, this takes the biscuit as one of the most ridiculous, stupid acts I've ever seen by a representative of the people. We worry about the standard of MPs in Westminster, and you look at this garbage from this moron, what's her name, Samantha Nisbet, and you realise we have cause to worry, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel so sorry for her constituents. Imagine, you know, voting in good faith for your representative in South Derbyshire and having a woman who treats Parliament like an Ann Summers party. It's absolutely disgraceful. And it's just so tacky. I think it's sort of symptomatic more widely of a new breed of MPs who sort of choose political positions as if they're there to make them look good, rather than because of what they can offer their constituents or indeed the country, you know, at large. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, and I mean, to address what she's actually saying, I mean, she's just saying, oh, shut up, women, stop moaning. Stop moaning about having men in dresses in your ladies' loos in your private changing room. Stop moaning. You know, I mean, that's sexist. That is an oppression of women. I mean, what on earth does she think she's saying?
Yeah, it is. It is revolting. I mean, she has all this sort of empathy for people who identify as trans or for men who identify as women. Yet she seems to have none for women who, for example, might be victims of sexual assault and need some space away from men. She seems totally blind to the fact that while, you know, it would be totally false to say that most men are at risk, some men are. As a group, men put women at risk, and we don't know which ones are dangerous. And that's why we need spaces away from them. That's not controversial, that's not cruel, that's just the truth. But she's so removed. There was something almost sort of Mary Antoinette-like about it, about her sort of lying there on
I love that.
sun lounger. It was just grotesque.
Yeah, she actually began the video by saying, "Oh, I'll probably get it in the neck for making this video while I'm on holiday." Yeah, Samantha, you will. I mean, if you must make this banal, asinine video with your ludicrous opinions, your sexist views about women's rights, don't make it while lying on a sunbed wearing sunglasses. That's a thought, isn't it, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. And you can guarantee that now she will be saying, "Oh, the trolls have come for me," and she'll be playing the victim. Because that's what they always bloody do, isn't it? But yeah, you know, she's a repellent individual, and I think she's, you know, she said she was ashamed to be an MP. Well, frankly, I'm ashamed that she is an MP.
Well, listen, yeah, I am too. I think it's really, you know, this people worry about the standard of MPs these days, the standard of politicians. You look at that and you think, my God, I wouldn't let her run a bath, let alone a constituency. That is the Derbyshire South. I feel sorry for the poor people there, the idiot that they have elected. It's just unbelievable. 0.3% of the population are trans. I think something like 50% are women. She wants to prioritise the 0.3% over the 50%. That is politically absurd, but she's an absurd woman. Joe, thank you so much for coming on. Good to talk to you. Come on again soon. That's assistant editor at The Critic, Joe Bartosh. Let me know what you think about the absurd Samantha Nisbet. Unbelievable, that Niblet. That's her name, is it? Samantha Niblet. Next up, he's from academia. Philip Kisley will join me next. We'll talk about Jason Arday, among other things. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We'll be taking your phone calls very soon, in a little while anyway, and I want to hear what you think. Is the King British? That's the big question of the day. Rupert Lowe wouldn't be drawn on that difficult question because Restore Britain's definition of being British is both your... Not only you have to be born here, both your parents do as well, and of course King Charles's dad, Prince Philip, was born in Greece. It used to be called Phil the Greek. So that would make our monarch, our king, our sovereign, not British, not a white British citizen. So is the King British in your view? 0344 499 1000. Should the phony professor, the preposterous Professor Jason Arday, be prosecuted for criminal fraud? And what are we going to do about Thetford? What are your feelings about the disruption, the trouble, the 3 nights of furious protests in Thetford in Norfolk by the local community who are fed up that they've had migrants and asylum seekers foisted upon them in houses of multiple occupation. The violence we don't condone, but I think I can understand the frustration. Now, what are your feelings? Do you fear, like me, that we're going to see more and more scenes like this all across the country? If nothing else for this reason, we have a Prime Minister and a government that just won't listen to us. We say we're worried about the migrant crisis. I'll give you a new social care system. No, Andy, we're worried about the migrant crisis. That's what we need. Devolution, more mayors. No, Andy. We're worried about the migrant crisis. What are you going to do about that? He's not listening to us. The more he doesn't listen, the more his government doesn't listen, the more Thetfords you're going to see, in my view. Do you agree? 0344 499 1000. Let's welcome my next guest. Been looking forward to this. He is the Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. Welcome, Philip.
Hi, Kev. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I wanted to get you on because you are, shall we say, an academia survivor. You're a luminary in the world of academia, but you got the hell out of Dodge. But I need to get your view on Jason Arday generally and what it means for academia, what it means for Cambridge University, what it means for all the other establishments that took that guy seriously, the BBC, the police, charities, the publishing industry. But we need to talk about that in just a second because this story is just broken and I need to get your view on it. I think it defies belief. Well, this is what the story is. A police manhunt is now underway in Scotland after a convicted child rapist escaped from staff on what they call escorted community leave. His name is Cliff Lyons Dobby. He's a restricted patient, whatever the hell that means. He absconded from Perth city centre on Thursday, yesterday. He was convicted in 1990 of raping a 10-year-old girl and while on bail, sexually abusing a 12-year-old boy. He's been housed in secure units, including the State Hospital in Carstairs, ever since. What the hell were they thinking, taking a man like this out on a nice little day trip to Perth city centre? He's broken out. He's escaped. What's going on? Why would they take him on a... Oh, look, it's sunny. Let's go into town. Would you like that, Cliff? I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, bearing in mind he'd already abused a child when he was on bail, so he must be one of the most dangerous predators for children in the country, and they're taking him on a jolly to a town centre. It beggars belief, but it's just one of those stories, isn't it? We've heard so many of them. Our prison service is just not fit for purpose. The ideas underpinning security of these people, actually holding them within prison. That doesn't seem to play here, does it? Because he's here, there, and everywhere. God knows where else he's been. I think, as this story breaks more and we get more of an insight into his everyday life behind bars, or not, as the case may be, I think we'll be quite shocked, Kev, as to how the prison service are treating him and the potential threat he poses to children, and has posed to children for years. It's probably only a matter of time before he broke loose, and here we are talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a good idea. I think I've got a better idea than the authorities that are supposed to be keeping him ensconced at State Hospital in Carstairs. Instead of taking him out for the day, nice sunny day in Perth, don't take him out for the day. Leave him safely locked up. That would mean that children and women and little boys, evidently as well, would be safer. How about that? It's called me controversial, but don't take him out for the day. Wouldn't that be a better scheme?
Well, it would be a better scheme, but you've got different priorities to our prison service, haven't you? You actually care about the safety of the public. You very much care about the safety of children. All they care about is his well-being. That's the problem. So I think there needs to be a complete overhaul of how we approach justice, mercy, crime, punishment, all of these things, because we are suffering at the moment. We don't know what we're doing. It's like everything else. We're going to talk about academia in the moment. That's a complete mess. The NHS is a complete mess. The prison service is a complete mess. The judiciary is a complete mess. This is a symptom of a broader malaise, isn't it? A broader disease. But the problem is, and it's always the same, who are the potential victims? Potential victims are children.
Yeah, exactly right. Absolutely disgraceful. Let's hope they catch him soon, but he's been on the run now for 24 hours, still at large. The people of Scotland, particularly in Perth, are in danger. So well done to everyone concerned. Unbelievable. Let's get on to old Jason Arday now. We've all had a good laugh at the expense of him, of course. And, of course, the various institutions that fell hook, line and sinker for his Walter Mitty litany of lies. We're talking about Cambridge University, of course. We're talking about the BBC. We're talking about the police. We're talking about charities. We're talking about the publishing industry. All of them fell for this guy. I've just been speaking, by the way, to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville, who says there's a very serious case here that the police could make up for their sinister and ludicrous investigation of the reporter who first exposed this fraud.
Insane.
A guy called Jack Grove at the Times Higher Education Supplement. They could make up for that awful investigation. What were they thinking? Oh, journalism, that's a crime, isn't it? They apologised for that. They could make up for that by prosecuting or investigating Jason Arday for criminal fraud, because he's conned his way. You'll know this. A Cambridge professor will earn between £82,000 and £150,000. So he conned his way into probably a six-figure job, £100,000 a year, on lies. That's criminal fraud.
It is criminal fraud. It's a hell of a salary. But he took them. But they were desperate to be had. They were desperate to believe everything he said, because he was the hero that fitted their ridiculous fantasy DEI narrative. OK, it's as simple as that. They were looking for him. They found him. And by God, he took them. I said earlier on in the week that I was quite, had a begrudging admiration for his
I do too.
ability as a con man and a chancer and a charlatan, because, these idiots desperately wanted that. But, I mean, there's a sinister level here, isn't there? Because if this is happening in Cambridge, you can bet your life it's happening in every other Russell Group university. It's happening in every faculty across the country, because these people desperately want this fantasy narrative to...
They wanted to believe him, didn't they? That's the point.
And he took them.
Let me show you, you may have seen this before, but if you haven't, make sure you've got a sick bucket handy. This is nauseating. This is Jason Arday arriving at Cambridge University and being greeted by the head of education there, a woman called Hillary Kremin, Cremin. She needs to get rid of that M and replace it with a T, Hillary Cretin. Look at this. It breaks new ground in cringe. Watch.
And now Jason is days away from achieving another ambition.
Hey, nice so good to see you.
Here's his new boss at Cambridge.
So we do have a lot of work to do, but I feel really optimistic.
There will be those that think this is a tokenistic appointment. What are your thoughts on this?
The board of electors on your interview day were absolutely unanimous. We are so lucky to have you. You are the best in the world in terms of the research that you do.
Well, look, you know, I went to university and all that. I'm well aware of the fact that professors and academics may be able to pass exams, but it certainly doesn't mean they're clever most of the time. That woman, but that given, how did that woman get to be a professor?
Well, I don't know. I was just looking at it, and the way she was looking at him, and
it's like love, wasn't it?
Well, she was at worship. She was
worshipping, yes.
And then he clasped her hands, you know, and then he sat her down, and then they talked about him, and she adored him. There's a kind of sexual energy in that whole exchange, which is frankly nauseating. I was just looking. I'm embarrassed watching it. But the point is, Kev, she knew about the nonsense research, the drivel that was the publications. She knew about the Walter Mitty lifestyle because there was previous, you know, I mean, he said he'd ran 30 marathons in 35 days, one of
with
which
a broken leg.
You know, then he'd written a book that he actually hadn't written. He was on 7-Up, and that started about
1964. 1964. He's about 41 years old. Kind of difficult, yeah.
And then I saw from you on Twitter that his resignation letter
was written by AI. Yeah,
was written by AI. So this man is a fraud from start to finish. But you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes to see it.
I know.
It's obviously there. This man is completely out of his depth. He looks like a rabbit in headlights there. He should not be at Cambridge. The only reason he's at Cambridge, let's be honest, is because he's black. And that is not a great reason to have a chair in one of the leading universities in the world. But that is the situation in which we're in. It's a national scandal, Kev, because students are being robbed of a decent education. People like him should not be there. They are not being taught, and research is not being conducted in the proper way.
For every Jason Arday, and let's hope there aren't too many of them. But what I think about this guy, you know, apart from the sheer horror of it, I mean, it's hilarious, except it's also very serious.
Yeah.
That so many people, the great and the good in high positions, fell for his cock and bull story. But what worries me about it, apart from the fact he's conned his way into potentially quite a lot of money, is, you know, Jason Arday, there may be other Jason Ardays around, but his elevation means that some white working class kid didn't get the break.
Yeah. It does, because it's just the opposite, again, of what it purports to be. This is not about equality. This is not about opportunity. This is about putting race before anything else. And if it's not race, then it's sexuality. If it's not sexuality, then it's something else. But what we need to do, there is this word which I keep coming back to, and it's meritocracy. We need to get back to the simple, basic building blocks of a society that works. And that That is people doing jobs that they're good at, irrespective of the colour of their skin or their sexuality or any of that nonsense. We need to stop it now.
Exactly right. I said this myself, that, you know, the first casualty of the wonderful world of the woke and the left is meritocracy.
Yeah.
You know, that they look for people that they want to give these positions because they think it makes them look good. What Cambridge University and Jesus College were obsessed with was the kudos of being able to say, we've got the youngest 39-year-old black professor ever. They were so desperate for that, they forgot to look into the details and forgot to look into whether or not he warranted this position. They just ditched meritocracy and went for wokery instead. Now, all the people at Cambridge University who approved this guy, the people at the BBC, he guest edited the Today programme, he appeared on Question Time, he was a regular on Laura Kuenssberg's programme. So the people at the BBC, the people in the publishing industry, Simon & Schuster are going to publish his book, absurdly, apparently, still next week. It's jury's out on whether it'll be in the fiction or the non-fiction section. The charities, the list goes on. All of the people who said, oh, Jason, you're wonderful, yes, 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 here's money, have this job, they've got a disease. They have caught the woke mind virus. It sends otherwise sensible and intelligent people clinically mad. That's what's happened here.
That is what's happened here, and it affects so many. You were saying before, it affects so many industries and so many sectors, and it goes right across the board. So, I mean, if you think about education, then you also have to think about the blob and local government. Then you have to think about charities. The charity sector is infected by these people. It costs a fortune. And then there's arm's length organisations and quangos. And sooner or later, I was saying this yesterday, you have to get to the car crash that is the NHS, okay? And that is a monument to failure. That is a monument to socialist failure. And why? Many, many reasons. I'm not making it oversimplified, but one of them is this obsession with DEI. Now, this is why everything is failing. We just, as I say, we need to get back to basics, but it takes a real gear change. It takes a different kind of mindset. And what we have to do is, yes, this guy kind of needs to be prosecuted for fraud. The people who put him in place, knowing full well that not only was he not up to the job, but he was a complete charlatan. They knew, Kev. They should be sacked as well. They should be taken away because they are not fit for purpose either. This is not living in the real world. This is the fantasy of inclusion, and it's harmful to everybody, not least, this is the final point I'll make on it, not least, you know, black kids who are really good and really intelligent, now they're going to have to deal with the, oh God, you're a tokenistic appointment. No, I'm not. I'm really good. I'm not Jason Arday. But that's going to impact on them as well.
Jettisoning meritocracy is an insult to genuinely talented black people, black kids. It really, really is. I guess my last question to you on this, Philip, is this. Now, obviously, Arday, Jason Arday, the preposterous prof, he thinks that by quitting, it took Cambridge University quite a long time to join the party, to finally say, we better investigate this. I think this happened, was it 2 days ago? The moment they said, well, you know, we've been looking at these press reports for the last 2 weeks and perhaps we ought to investigate this guy, the moment they announced it, he quit. Saying, oh, this doesn't mean to say that effectively, as you say, in an AI letter, asserting that this does not confirm that he accepts he's lying. That was the essence of it. He obviously thinks this will preclude the Cambridge University investigation. I say it must not. No. Cambridge University and Jesus must continue their investigation if they are to, in any way, try to regain their reputation in order to find out what went wrong, to interrogate themselves and their mistakes. They mustn't drop the ball on this, must they?
He jumped before he was pushed. Okay, fair enough. But this isn't about him anymore. It's about a culture in our institution. It's about procedures, and it's about people who are not fit for purpose. So it's about looking into what's happening. It's pouring sunlight into these dark corners, so people do actually understand. Right, you've got to understand where you are sending your children. Okay, what they are teaching you and what they are teaching your children, and who is teaching your children. Are they fit for the job? And if they're not, you know, people who are at university should be now looking. Don't just leave it to the universities to investigate this, because nothing will happen. What people need to do themselves is, if you are at university, I'll say this to students now, if you're watching, if you are at university, go onto your onto your lecturer staff profiles, look at the publications, make sure they are real, make sure they are there, and explore and look at what's going on. Be proactive, because if there's one person doing this, you can bet your life.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And by the way, last point about this guy, this is what the eminent academics, the professors at Cambridge University should have possibly noted. You know, if you're watching, Jason, FYI, when you use that word that means small, insignificant poultry, it isn't spelt it isn't spelt Poultry. That's chickens. That's how he spelt poultry, which of course is Paltry. That's in his PhD.
Well, actually, more than that, there's an inappropriate
apostrophe in the title. This guy, yeah, people say, well, he is still quite clever. No, he's not. He's not clever, and he's not educated, and they should have spotted this, to say the least. Philip, you're going to stay with us, so we'll come back to you after the break.
49,000 people are leaving Morocco because apparently it's war-torn. But Jet2 this morning are offering 20% off a trip to Morocco for a week. Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
This is a huge football story, folks. UEFA has now said no European nation will participate in any FIFA competition so long as proposals to create a company to run the World Cup remain alive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just to blow around trumpet a bit, because other media are picking up on this and not crediting us, this show, the Drive Time show here on Talk, because we began the show in the excellent company of Reform UK's Deputy Leader, Reform UK's Deputy Leader, Richard Tice. And Richard told us exclusively, we broke this story, no one's given us credit. Well, basically, he has been complaining about the National Crime Agency. He says they have illegally leaked financial information about him and reform to the media, specifically The Guardian. This is what, this is the story that Richard broke with us at the beginning of the show. Right, let's get on now. You've got some news, haven't you?
Well, I've got a couple of bits of news. Yes, the important bit of news is that Nigel and I believe that the National Crime Agency have committed multiple criminal offences, and
by leaking,
they leaked copies and details of separately of individual bank statements, bank transfers, details of conversations with bank managers from different banks, different bank managers, different accounts, certainly in my case, and we've had enough of it. We gave them about 5 weeks to investigate internally. They have basically refused to do so. They've begged for more time. We think they're playing for time, and we've said we're done with it. So today we have submitted High Court proceedings, a writ against the National Crime Agency, 2 separate writs actually, for leaking confidential information, and we will be seeking an apology and damages for what they've done. They have literally, I mean, this is the most senior crime agency in the country, have themselves committed criminal offences, and they haven't denied it, and they haven't come back to us in 5 weeks. We've had enough of it. We're suing them.
There you go. That was our exclusive. I want to thank the Guido Fawkes website, which is just about the only media outlet that has credited us for breaking that story. I'm still with Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. What are your thoughts on that, Philip?
Well, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, especially on the back of what happened to Anne Widdecombe and all the hundreds and hundreds of threats on Nigel Farage's life, the fact that, the establishment can break its own laws and again, I don't care, it's putting reform at risk. If you are publishing that kind of information, personal kind of information, you are still putting individuals at risk and you are breaking the law. It's disgusting, Kev, is what I think it is.
Yeah, I do think there is a campaign. I mean, I'm not here to bat for Reform UK. I think they've made some mistakes. I don't think they're in any way perfect, but there's no doubt whatsoever there is this concerted campaign to undermine, to discredit, to smear Richard, Nigel Farage, Reform UK generally, on the part of the political establishment. There's no doubt about it. So I think that's more of a testament to Reform UK than anything else. They're worried. They got the jitters. Listen, let me ask you probably our last question, but an overarching question. We've seen 3 nights of serious disturbances in Thetford in Norfolk. The local community, protesters, rising up in fury and frustration because they say we've had more and more houses of multiple occupation full of asylum seekers foisted upon us. Nobody consulted us. Here they are in our midst, just foisted upon us. They're angry. Now, I fear we're going to see more and more of this around the country. I fear, I hope it doesn't happen. And by the way, of course, we are not condoning violence in any way. Peaceful protest, of course, go for it, but not violent protest. But I fear we're going to see more and more social unrest, like we're seeing in Thetford, for this reason. Those people in Thetford are furious and frustrated because they're screaming from the rooftops, like the rest of us, going, hey, Andy, hey, Labour government, this is what we're worried about. Our main concern, our main worry is the migrant crisis. We want you to stop the boats. We want you to stop or do something about the increasing number of army camps, air bases, hotels, houses of multiple occupations springing up all over the country. we want you to do something. And he turns around and says, I'm going to give you a new social care system and I'm going to give you lots more mayors. He's not listening to us. This government won't listen to the people. And if you don't listen to the people as a government, you're going to get Thetford and you're going to get lots of Thetfords. That's what I fear. What do you think, Philip?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, his answer to everything seems to be £2 bus fares, and that's it. You know, I mean, literally, that's it. That's his vision. That's his grand vision for the future. This stuff is accelerating, isn't it? And when what we have in Thetford is what we're beginning to see. It isn't just one night of trouble or even 2 nights of trouble. It's night after night after night. This is getting much more intense, much more serious, because people are genuinely worried and genuinely frightened. I think there's something like about 7,000 immigrants been foisted on that place. And this is without any kind of, you know, people, there is no discussion about this. It's just, here you are, lump it, this is what you've got to deal with. Now, it changes the nature, the society and the culture of these places. And of course, it puts people in danger. But again, the moment you start talking about this, you just become, you're just called racist.
Yeah, racist.
Yeah, but the one thing I have noticed here, they have learnt their lesson slightly, and they've changed the rhetoric. What they're saying now is, oh, yes, we understand people have concerns, but there are people who are causing trouble. It's okay to acknowledge that, but you've got to do something about it. And the problem is they're powerless to do anything about it, because this is the source of the problem. It's the thing that we've talked about for such a long time. It's mass immigration. They are doing nothing to stop the boats. They are doing nothing to stop legal immigration as well as mass immigration. It will just continue, and the situation will just get worse. The atmosphere, it's like a powder keg out there.
It is. I agree. I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I think this is, I don't think it's overstating it. This country's getting infested with this. You know, as you say, 7,000 migrants in the Thetford area. There's only 25,000 people live there.
Well, it changes the whole nature of the place, and it's about the scale, but it's also about the pace as well. And we simply cannot cope with it. But the problem is that what people are really responding to, they're responding to the situation on the ground, but they're responding to the fact that nothing ever gets done about it, and they can't see any way that anything can be done about it. I think that's the real problem.
What worries me is, I spoke earlier in the week to a guy called Tim McNally. He's organising the campaign for the village that roared, the village of Piddington in Oxfordshire. They're about to, there are plans to foist upon them 1,250 young male migrants in a nearby camp. Now, there are 350 people in Piddington and 46 children. He said, if we have 1,250 young male migrants just down the road, not only will this completely change the village, it will wreck the childhoods of the kids who live here. So I think what we're talking about, Thetford, Piddington, Crowborough, all these protests, this is the battle for Britain. We are losing our national identity, and more communities are saying enough, and Andy Burnham just doesn't care.
No, he doesn't. I mean, that village that you've just talked about there, it will simply disappear under the weight of mass immigration. It will become something else. And all of those children in that village, their experience of life will change. Their childhood will come to an end overnight because, oh, guess what? You can't go out because you're going to be in danger. Make sure you come home. Don't go anywhere on your own because there are all of these people. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they've come from. They are all men, and they are probably from cultures which do not understand things like age of consent and those kind of things. So this is it's not just a scandal. It's actually a tragedy because it impacts on women, but most of all, it impacts on children, and it takes away their childhood. It ruins their lives. And this is just going to be mapped out right across the country because wave after wave is happening. And as I said before, there is no plan. They can't do anything about it. It's a crying shame.
Yeah, the good thing is, though, bus fares are going to be capped at £2. So he's got it. Don't say this guy hasn't got a plan. His main plan at the moment is to carry on enjoying his extraordinary holiday. 15 days in the hot seat. Oh, that was exhausting. He's gone off on a fortnight's break. Unbelievable. Philip, excellent stuff. Great to have you on the show. The brilliant Philip Kisley there. He is a veteran of academia. He got the hell out of Dodge. Couldn't stand it anymore. I'll tell you what academia is. It's like a cult. People say, how come all these professors are so stupid? And all these lecturers, all these clever... So why are they all so stupid and woke? Because they are trapped in a cult. Academia has become a cult of the left, a cult of wokery. And cults change people's minds. They're all suffering from the woke mind virus. It has sent them absolutely barking mad. We'll go to break now. When we come back, we'll take some phone calls for the rest of the show. So get on the blower, 0344 499 1000. Your calls next. I'll read some of your messages. And if we've got any WhatsApp voice notes, I'll play those out as well. So lots still to come. Peter Carwell will be in the studio in a little while to tell you what he's got lined up for your entertainment from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock, because then it's my show, What Just Happened. But all that's still to come, so stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
A couple of texts. Mr. Crisp in Newcastle said, never mind the fraud. I want to know what checks the university HR did. What, human resources? I don't think it's got anything to do with it. They don't check whether or not somebody should be employed. That's down to the bosses, as in the professors and the dons of the university. The blame doesn't lie with the HR department. It lies with the idiot professors and the dons who gave him the gig. So simple as that, Mr. Crisp. Yippee-ki-yay. Don't say I haven't got any fans. So I'm going to read out a big blurb about me. I hate presenters who go, oh, here's someone who says I'm marvellous. Well, I'm going to do that now. This is from Yippee-ki-yay. I love him already. Or is it a woman? Hi, Kev, I'm watching you and you always crack me up with your words and impressions, whether it's ginger nuts, as Prince Harry, Keir Starmer, Keir Starmer impressions. Gonna miss old Keir. He was easy. And now Andy Burnham. This is a BAP. I don't care what it's a ban. It's not a BAP. It's not a rule. Oh, shut up. Do something serious. I don't care what you call your rolls, bread rolls. You've seen that video? Unbelievable. And today's one as a cretin, old Hillary Kremin, the professor who gave Jason Arday a job. I said that she should change her name to cretin. It'll only take one letter. C-R-E-M-I-N. Just take the M out, put a T in, and you'll be there. Anyway, Yippee-ki-yay spat his tea out at that point. Don't ever change. Yippee-ki-yay. No matter how much I try, I think it's too late for me to change. We got a voice note here. This is Rick on Jason Arday.
Just listen to this thing about Professor Arday. Maybe the Labour Party would take him on as the new Minister for Education. I think that's a great spot for him. All right, great show, mate. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
And you, Rick, really good, yeah. He's cut out for left-wing politics, Jason Arday. You'll be shocked to hear he did once stand as a Labour councillor. You know, it wouldn't be Reform UK, would it? Or the Tories or anything like that. Labour. By the way, Labour have been very, very quiet about all this, haven't they? The left aren't saying much. Wonder why. The DEI and left-wing wokery has taken a terrible hit over the last few days, and I'm very, very sorry about that. Here's Russ on Andy Burnham.
Andy's solution, like you said, is to do with the migrant crisis. Ignore it and bring in £2 bus fares. Just like Starmer with his breakfast clubs. Seems to be a pattern here with the Labour.
Yeah, breakfast clubs. There'll be free breakfast clubs. There'll be free breakfast clubs. They're not free. We're taxpayers. We're paying for them. There's no such thing as a free breakfast, he said, changing that usual phrase, which is no such thing as a free lunch. But seriously, no such thing as a free breakfast. So you and your breakfast clubs, remember that. They always just bang on about it. Look at what we've achieved. Free breakfast clubs. Who cares? Anyway, shall we go to break? We'll take some calls afterwards.
49,000 people are leaving Morocco because apparently it's war-torn. But Jet2 this morning are offering 20% off a trip to Morocco for a week. Which country in Europe wipes everybody else's backside but its own people? Here.
This is a huge football story, folks. UEFA has now said no European nation will participate in any FIFA competition so long as proposals to create a company to run the World Cup remain alive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
go to the phones in just a second. Paul in South Wales says that interview with Rupert Lowe, that's where he said that the King wasn't British. By the way, never let it be said that the pedants' revolt is not over. A load of pedants have pointed out that when I said, oh, the King's, you know, is the King a white British citizen? The King can't be a citizen because he's the sovereign. Oh, thank you so much. There you go. So apparently the King is not a citizen. He's in charge of all the other citizens. But the question is, according to Rupert Lowe's party, he is not a white Brit. He's not British because his dad wasn't born in Britain. That's the point. So Paul in South Wales said that interview with Rupert Lowe won't change a thing with people who like Restore. I keep hearing at this point that they're not politically professional like the other major parties. That, in my eyes, is a plus point. That's a good point, Paul, that. You're not happy with the way the current politicians act, but you want all new parties to act like them. Then you complain that... Well, you're talking about me. You know, don't tell me what I think, Paul, but otherwise you make a reasonable point there. This is interesting. By the way, Joanna says, a monitor talking about this situation in Perth in Scotland, a monitor patient and they lost him? Unreal. Gives us great hope for those being let out on tags. Well, he's not on a tag, and we're going to talk now to Angus, who lives in Perth in Scotland. Angus, thanks for calling. I'm getting a message that you are saying that it took the police 24 hours to let you good people of Perth know that there was a very dangerous child rapist on the loose.
Yeah, that's correct. It turns out he actually went missing yesterday.
Yeah. Well, when you say went missing, he escaped.
well, yeah. I mean, it was a restricted patient, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in Carstairs since what?
Yeah, so 1990 is when he did. When he raped a kid. Yeah.
I mean, to let everybody know, Carstairs is it's our main.
So your equivalent of Broadmoor or somewhere like that.
Much. Like, I mean, it's what 30-foot fences with barbed wire on the top and
it's a psychiatric hospital, but very much a prison, as it were.
Yeah.
What do you think about the whole idea? I don't know if you've got kids, Angus, but what are they thinking? Taking this guy who raped a 10-year-old girl and sexually assaulted a 12-year-old boy is clearly a very... Why were they taking him out for a trip to the town?
No idea. No idea. I mean, how these people even are allowed outside the gates?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a gobsmack, really. I mean, 24 hours later. I mean, where you'll know yourself, Perth, pretty main.
I know Perth.
I know Perth. So you've got trains, buses, cars. Could be anywhere. I mean, he could even be out of the country by now.
Exactly right. Exactly. It depends how resourceful he is. But as I say, I just find it incredible. I mean, this isn't just a dangerous prisoner. This is a psycho. This is a guy who has to be in a high-security psychiatric hospital. And they basically say, it's a lovely sunny day, let's go for a trip to the town. And then he escapes. It's mad, isn't it?
I mean, the thing that concerns me more is that, I mean, he was escorted, on a day out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what was he... I mean, how did he get away from them? Did he go into changing rooms to try on stuff and then manage to get away from them?
God knows what.
He should be handcuffed at least one of them.
Yeah, but as I said earlier, what I would do, Angus, call me controversial, but I wouldn't have let him out in the first place. Just keep him under lock and key. He's a dangerous man. I don't know what the hell that is all about, but I hope the people of Perth are able to stay safe.
There's certainly one comment on one of the local Facebook pages.
Yeah, go on.
That states it wouldn't be a problem if he wasn't here.
Yeah, I guess so. I see what you mean. Yeah, well, that's another debate to be had. I think, we're getting more and more sort of the kind of criminals where more and more people are thinking, why do we keep these people alive? I know where you're coming from, Angus. Angus, thank you so much for calling in. Great call, thank you. Angus in Perth. Let's go to Mark in Lincolnshire. Mark, hi, Mark.
Hi there, Kev.
Hello, mate. You think Rupert Lowe is correct and that the King is not British?
It depends how you frame the question, isn't it, really? If you say white British citizen, then that's incorrect. Because
Well, he's not a citizen, but OK, white British.
Yeah, I was going to come on to that.
Who cares about the citizen bit? That's just pedantry.
Exactly.
That's just pedantry. That isn't the point.
If you're asking the question, is he white British?
Yeah.
No, he isn't.
Well, yeah, well, that's the point, isn't it? Rupert Lowe never said it. Restore Britain never said anything about citizen. That's, if you like, my mistake. I don't think it's much of a big deal, but there you go. Restore Britain have defined a white British person as someone who's not only born in Britain themselves, but both of their parents must be born in Britain as well, which, of course, cuts out the King because his dad, Prince Philip, was born in Greece. So by that matrix, do you believe, then, that the King is not British?
Well, as I say, if you go on purely factual...
Well, do you? So you don't believe he's British?
He isn't. No, I don't. If you're saying... You see, this is where it gets difficult. This is what you're talking about, the citizen thing.
Can we just stop? Can we stop talking about the citizen thing? My mistake. Very, very sorry. Rupert Lowe or nobody said anything about citizen. Shall we talk about what the story is? Is the King a white British person?
No.
What is it? What is he then? Greek?
He's Greek, Danish, German.
OK.
If you go on his mother is German, is Danish German.
I know the royals are very German. I agree with that. They're real. Isn't their real name Saxonburg or something?
That's where his mum comes from, that area of Germany. But you have to go back, I think, as far as his maternal grandmother before you start seeing any level of English and Scottish within his bloodline.
Yeah, but if you're born in Britain, then you're a British citizen, aren't you? You're British. If you're born in Britain, you're British.
You're a British citizen.
No, but if you're born in Britain, you're British.
Yeah, you're a British citizen.
No, you're British.
No, you're British if you are ethnically.
So if you're born in Britain, as far as you're concerned, you're not British if one of your parents wasn't born here.
No, that's not technically true either.
Well, what is the story here, Mark?
If you've got a parent, right, that is, for example, the great classic.
I haven't actually. They're both dead, but that's another issue.
Well, join the club. I'm just trying to think of somebody more famous, like.
Okay, Mark.
Ben Habib, right?
Ben's got a Pakistani dad, hasn't he? Ben's got a Pakistani dad. So does that mean Ben's not British? Ben's not British?
No, he's still British because he has English ancestry.
Well, so does the King.
His mother's English.
Well, so wait a second. You're saying that to be born in Britain doesn't mean that you're British?
No, it means to be born in Britain means you're a British citizen. Yeah? Right. You have a piece of paper, you have a passport, you have a piece of paper, you were born here, you're a British citizen.
Yeah.
Okay?
So in other words, British.
Well, like I say...
Apart from the King, my mistake, but apart from the King, being British and being a British citizen is exactly the same, isn't it?
No, being British, as I said to you before, Kev, is defined by the English, Scottish, Welsh and Irish. That's British.
Yeah.
Being a British citizen is somebody who's born here or somebody who has the paperwork that says they are British.
Mark, have you got any idea how insane this sounds?
No, it sounds actually perfectly logical and reasonable.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does, and you know it does, Kev. People like yourself. No, Kev. Can I just finish on one point? If you take this argument, because I know where you're going with this.
I'm just laughing, Mark. Carry on. Yeah, go on.
This whole nonsense about British values. To take that to its logical conclusion, then that would be to say you could literally replace the entire native British population, replace them with Pakistani and Somalis. As long as they subscribe to this weird magical set of values, then they're British and native and everything else and everything's wonderful.
But those people, if they're born in Britain, they're British. It's that thing, isn't it? You're probably going to find this a really difficult concept, Mark, but if you're black or you're Asian, and you're born in this country, you're British.
And if you don't have English, Irish, or Scottish, Welsh,
what's that got to do with it? What's that got to do with it? Honestly, Mark, I fear for you. This is seriously mad.
I think your position's actually quite mad.
That's mad. I'm mad for suggesting that the king might be British. Oh, yeah, I'm absolutely doolally, aren't I? What am I saying? The king's British? I must be insane. Get me a padded cell. Come on, man. This is absurd. The king is British. Of course he is.
Your argument, the logical conclusion of your argument leads to the ethnocide of the native people, and I'm not up for that, Kev.
The ethnocide of the native people. Well, yeah, I mean, you said that before, Mark, but you know, that he's hung up on me now. But frankly, what he's saying is just racist. That's ridiculous, absolutely absurd. Let's move on to a more sensible call. This is from Stuart in London. Hi, Stuart.
Hello, Kev, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. Follow on from that if you can. You want to talk about housing? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What would you like? What would you like to say?
You know, we spoke many times. We're both exactly on the same page.
Yeah.
Now, Kenny Badenoch said she's going to kick these people out of social housing. She's only got one problem. Why she's in the ECHR, she knows she can't do it.
Well, she does want to leave the ECHR, to be fair.
But only one half of it. But it's enshrined in Tony Blair's Act, it's enshrined it in British law, his Human Rights Act. And I don't know if people know...
The Equalities Act, isn't it?
Yeah, and people come here, illegal immigrants, by law, they must be housed immediately. Not British people, not veterans, not kids, they must be housed immediately. So if she doesn't withdraw...
Well, I'm assuming she'll try to do that. She'll try to unravel herself from that labyrinth of legality.
Well, she's never said anything about it.
Well, I think implicit, you know, I mean, she doesn't have to go into those full details. But I do take your point. I mean, and I think, I hate to sort of agree with Labour. They do say that, at the very least, this is going to be extremely difficult to bring into play, and I think they're right there. Stuart, I've got to move on, but good to talk to you, mate, as always. Thank you. Good call. Mark in Stuart in London. No, Mark was the guy who doesn't think the King's British. Peter Cardwell's in the studio. Can I ask you that tricky one? Is
Kevin,
the King British?
Definitely not, Kevin. I mean, I just think you're just completely mad to suggest that King Charles is British. By the same logic, Rishi Sunak's not British, Boris Johnson's not British because he was born in... Joanna Lumley's not British because she was born in India, and so on, and so on, and so on.
I mean, I don't understand where this comes from. You know, it's a principle applied by every nation in the world. If you're born there, you are of that nation.
And this nonsense that ethno-nationalism isn't about being white. Of course it is. That's exactly what it's about.
It's racism, isn't it?
It is racism,
yeah,
I'm afraid.
It's as simple as that. Yeah. Did you hear Rupert Lowe's interview on Radio 4? I mean, do you think you're an expert in the political field? So this guy goes on to Radio 4, you know, and he's clutching, if you like, this policy, this definition that Restore Britain are celebrating, that you can't be British. To be British, you must not only be born here, as both of your parents must be. If one of them wasn't, you're not British.